and live.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Virtual Belcar for round 2 of the Virtual Belcar Series 2022 Season 1 here from Watkins, Glen, with the boot included. My name is Hasse Reumer. It's my pleasure to be here alongside Edward May yet again for another wonderful night of racing here from one of the best tracks around. And from what I've heard coming into this one, Edward, it's going to be challenging in terms of temperature on the tires indeed as well here tonight. So a lot of action to be looking forward to on a Friday night indeed here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very exciting 3 hours in store for us, but we still have a little bit left of this qualifying session. You can see in the session there has been 22 minutes elapsed over the course of this session, but there's still 8 more to go and plenty of positions up for grabs. We're having a look at the moment at Alexander Rise, who is currently 12th in the BLC 1 class in his Audi R8 GT3 machine. Number 20, not quite up to pace that we saw Flemish Sim Sports seemingly finding at Spa. However, I think last time we saw them, memory serves right, they were in the Lamborghini, and they seem to have made a switch to the Audi.
Yeah, that might actually be. It's been a good few weeks now, so I must admit, that one has slipped me, Edward, but interesting to see indeed. Lamborghinis aplenty here for Ignium Motorsports, as well as Håkan Grebstad takes every bit of track there. And the spoot section of the track really is one that has a lot of flow to it. It's one of my personal favorite tracks, this one indeed, but also one of the lovely, I want to call it, set of old school American tracks out there still in existence, Edward. And it makes for something special here at Watkins, Glen.
Really is, and there's been a special lap in the BLC3 class. Cedric Wouters has just gone fastest by 100th of a second. And Klopman, Traxxas Motorsport, Traxxas by JWS Motorsport, pole position, but getting rolled over onto his roof by, I think that was the Valkyrie competition car, just going by giving him a hit up the rear. Stayed well over to the left, and the right-hand side of the track, our left-hand side on the cameras, and there wasn't anything he did wrong there. I think that was just a misjudgment there by Valkyrie Competition. I don't think... I mean, maybe that might be looked at for stewards, but I don't think that would be qualifying. We'll keep our eyes on that, though, as it develops, Hasse. Sorry, I almost called you Chaz. I've been commentating far too much with a good friend of ours, Hasse Chaz Drake, and I need to get back used to the fun and the madness that comes with my favourite name.
Well, it's not the worst thing you can be called, I guess, is it? So it's a wonderful man, Chess, indeed, and very, very, very skilled at the art of commentating. Well, here is Fabrice Cornelis, who I think a lot of people would expect it to be cleanly on pole position at 100th of a second. Oh, when he gets dived! And this is very much the thing in qualifying here in a series as populated as this, that with the grid sizes that we have, with 4 classes sharing the track all together, finding the space for that flying lap in qualifying can be very, very tricky indeed. I think that's what Fabrice Cornelis is finding at the moment. I don't expect him to be improving upon that time he set before. He's sort of even battling for position here, Edward. Must be mighty frustrating to have a qualifying session like this, and you wonder if it's better just to hold off and find a clean bit of tarmac.
Yeah, but I think he wants to clear ahead of him and going for the move up the inside of the 209. That being Yves Dessot for Desert Pit Racing Team. It's good to see a fair few number of these GT4 cars in the BLC3 class. It's been really popular in recent weeks on iRace, in recent months to be fair, with the addition of the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT4 car. It's a real fun bit of kit, but as well, seeing the variety of cars now in that class as Nicolas Higener in the carnage competition BMW, the only BMW, actually no, not the only, but definitely doing very well in that BMW, a car that's not so good in terms of BOP, but still using the car to its strengths. These sort of medium to higher speed corners really suit the wheelbase, but then as soon as you get to slow speeds and the heavy brakings, it just can't quite get it turned in quickly enough. Should be all right here at Watkins Glen, though. The elevation can help it carry plenty of momentum as we see the difference in pace between BLC2 and BLC3 as the Porsche Cup car slings its way up the inside into the chicane. Gets a little bit out of shape. Is that the duct tape racing car? I think that
the
might be
992 machine, yeah. So that's duct tape racing indeed. There, Philip Fliegen, who did indeed almost fly there for a second, and I'm just. That was, by the way, we saw that shot before with the BMW coming within centimeters of the wall on one of the corner exits. I think that was coming up towards the S's and some of the lower downforce cars. Turns like these that aren't, they're sort of easy in something like an LMP2 because it's just a flat out set of curves that can basically be regarded as a straight in terms of what you have to do in throttle and brake. But in a car like the GT4, any of the GT4s, I would guess it's a little bit of a different story there.
Yeah, certain corners can be a lot harder in different bits of kit. I mean, to an extent, it can be a worry in the GT3 cars if you get your line wrong and all of a sudden you find yourself really struggling to keep the power down. You should be flat out, though, after turn one all the way up until you get towards the chicane up here. In pretty much every single car, I think you would imagine. It might struggle a little bit, potentially for some of the front-wheel drive cars, the BLC4 class TCRs on cold tyres. That could be a concern as Kim Bahia slings it over the curbs, struggling just a touch to keep it within the confines. That will be an invalidation of that lap time. Should it be quicker than his previous best, it won't count towards him gaining any positions in qualifying. Here is the battle though for pole position up at the top. Oscar Pai for Valkyrie competition. Only a tenth of a second shy of Jimmy and Tunes, and that bodes very well for the race ass because you can just see a sea of orange all along that left-hand side of the screen, the timing tower showing just how close well, the action is, and how close was that to the back of the Flemish SimSports BLC2 car. You can really see that Oscar's trying to push, but then the traffic slows him down and comes to a standstill. That was probably his last chance to snatch pole position away from carnage competition. It just didn't work out. And then look at this. Absolute carnage. Traffic everywhere for Olivier Bulting. That's going to really wreck his chances of snatching pole position.
Yeah, we're in the dying moments of qualifying here, just 30 seconds before the flag drops. So I'd be very surprised if anybody really will make any huge gains here. Of course, we could see drivers that have yet to put in a flying lap really in terms of being held up by traffic. So sort of interesting here. Olivier Bulting, though, within 0.4 of a second. This is really a track where traffic management is key when it comes to multi-class racing.
Two late improvements there. Neil Schneider going up into fourth. Your own Vatlet up into fifth. Vatlet was for a moment in fifth before Neil Schneider on a very quick lap was able to get the position back, and I think Lucas Romano actually holding on. It says for some reason that Lucas Romano is in BLC 3, but I think he is actually in the Audi in BLC 1.
Be one of those drivers that are driving in two different teams. We've seen it before in this series, so could be that that's the case. But yeah, the Leerschneider close as well. Of course, it's the interval times we see at the moment, so it's if we head it over and check to gap, we'll see the gap that it is standing to the leader. So Olivier Bulting half a second off of Jimmy and Toons, etc. And there is, I think, a bit of an issue because Lucas Romano seems to have been put in as a BLC 3 machine at the moment. That's a bit of a confusing one. It throws a bit of a heck in the standings here, but at the end of qualifying, Edward, we'll do our best to cover it as the final cars come along for what could still be a final lap here for Jeremy de Boever. And he does improve by quite a bit as well, goes up into 12th place for a Mac Challenge by DB1.
Yeah, there's been a few things that have, again, been a little bit difficult for our timing software to get its head around. Unfortunately, BLC3 is showing on the left-hand side above BLC2, even though BLC2 is the Cup car, the faster class compared to the GT4. So that's something to always bear in mind as well. But I think that is now qualifying done and dusted. No further cars out on the circuit. So we'll eagerly wait until we can get this race, the 3 hours of Watkins Glen, underway. And what a tasty front row it is. Jimmy and Tunes and Oscar Pie separated by just a tenth of a second in a very, very busy Watkins Glen circuit. Just over, or well, comfortably over actually 40 cars here tonight, which is a wonderful turnout, Hassa.
Indeed it is. Absolutely so. And we love to see it, don't we? I'm just going to see if I can get that little bit of stuff fixed, and there might be some standings to go through for you in the meanwhile, Edward.
Yeah, here we go then. Jimmy and Tunes up on pole position for Carnage competition ahead of Valkyrie competition. In second place, Oscar Pie behind the wheel of the 77. Then we go down to third, Olivier Balsink driving the Lamborghini for Sim District Vibe eSports GT3. Lucas Romano, while he's showing us blue, he will not be too upset about the P4. He'll be ahead of Steven Lilleschneider, Hakon Grebstad, Joan Rattler, John Bruins, Babo Follon, and Jordi Janssens, who completes the top 10 JWS Motorsport. Then we go down to Nathan Thonon, Valkyrie eSports Rookies in 11th ahead of Jeremy de Boever, McChallenge by DB1. Then 13th place, we should be able to see Anthony Beck actually for Ignium Motorsports Blaze, ahead of Alexander Rise, Flemish Simsports White by Veraco. Maxime Rubuk, Team Beta Brab in 14th, and Arnie Biesmans, QSR Racing Esports in 16th place. And I think we've finally been able to fix the number 33 to show in the correct class here, Hassa, and you can run us through the BLC2 class.
Indeed, I can, if it would be so kind to throw me on to the next class. Indeed, but it doesn't seem to want to do so. It's just a slight bit frustrating, to be honest. We'll just have to go through the overalls then, if possible. Which for some reason, if it for some reason just wanted to do so, it doesn't really seem to. This should be better qualifying results. This will be the grid order indeed in BLC2. ART Sim Racing ahead of GTE Racing by Red Ant. Then Flemish Sim Sports Yellow, Berserk Racing, Duct Tape Racing Yellow, B-Sim Racing, Team Alpha Brab, Our Time, Duct Tape Racing Red, and Dynamics Racing Simulators. And BLC 3 with PSR by RPM put in as PLC 3, but that's not completely true indeed, is it now, Edward? We'll have Traxxas by JWS Motorsports ahead of SimTag E-Team with Sim District Vibe Esports. Traxxas by JWS Classic Cars, and then an Ash competition in the 100 BMW 5th place. Because the Flemish Sim Sports Black ahead of Ignium PNW Esports Racing Team, and then RP Motorsports by Q-Team, QSR Racing Esports, B-Sim Racing, Sim District Vibe Esport Porsche, Desipit Racing Team, and ART Sim Racing as well. And last but not least, Edward, over to you for BLC4.
Yeah, sadly only 4 entries tonight in the BLC4 class. Carnage competition number 18 with the number 21, which is not going to confuse us whatsoever. Nuno Henriquez is going to be taking to the start on pole position in BLC4 ahead of Flemish Simsports Red by Veraco. the number 69, Nice, will be started by Glen. Then Thomas Robin, or I believe because it is a French driver, it is Thomas Robin in AC Motorsport eSports AM. Third place ahead of Kevin Soufriot, the eSim Racing by FRT. Fourth place in BLC 4. Here we go, though. These are the front two that all eyes will be on at the start of the race, as it was an amazing start for the season for Valkyrie competition. Actually, no, carnage competition, rather, that got off to the flying start as reigning champions, securing the race victory. But Valkyrie competition, up until the midpoint, the later point of the race where those mistakes start to creep through, they were definitely keeping them honest. What are we going to see, though, at the start, Hasser? It could be very tasty into turn one.
Absolutely, and I think we saw more than we necessarily expected from the opening moments and the opening half hour or so, maybe even more at the opening round at Spa. So good to see that competition is indeed close enough at the head of BLC 1. And then, of course, further down in the BLC 1s, we saw some great action at the opening round. And as always, BLC 2, BLC 3 and 4 as well. It's a bit sad to see the BLC 4 car, the BLC 4 class, I'm sorry, just ever so slightly underpopulated. But I think that reflects the overall popularity. Maybe a lot of drivers can't really seem to align themselves with the front-wheel drive TCR machines. Even though we've had the addition of several new cars into the class as well here at iRacing, including not only one, but two Hyundais. Enough said about BLC 4. We've got a lot of cars that are waiting to get going, and it's all behind Jimmy and Toons, who's going to get us going for 3 hours of Watkins Glen here in the virtual Belcar series. And on towards turn one they go, and it's a very, very good run for Oscar Pi on the inside, or the outside, sorry. And the inside is Antunes, of course, the two, with a clean start as far as I can see. And that's asking a lot here.
Look at all of this in the background, side by side, 2 wide, maybe even 3 wide at parts as they make their way through turn 1 and up in towards the S's. Keep your eyes on Oscar Pi and Jimmy Antunes. Oh no, there's a big, big moment. We were worrying that this might happen here at Watkins Glen. It's like pinball with the walls so close, cars rolling over onto their roofs. Dear oh dear, that is not the start that these drivers were hoping for. John Van Lijpt all the way down the order now, way at the back of his BLC 2 class. Several BLC 4 cars involved, but I think BLC 3 really bore the brunt of this. This is what happened right at the front of the BLC 3 drivers. I think it was a coming together at the tail end of BLC 2 that saw several drivers. I mean, there's a GT3 car actually involved going skywards. What on earth was that? I think that was Simdist. Was that John Bruins, I think?
Someone's getting
skywards.
Absolutely launched, I'm afraid. And that is a rescue run here at Watkins Glen with that section up through the S's onto the back straight with the walls right next to the track. And that goes for a large portion of the track in general. Any sort of mistakes will, or at least tend to be punished quite heavily here. That was certainly not what we wanted to see. And I just want to see here, Thomas Aubin went off track. That's further down. He got sent into the wall on his own.
A separate incident that ended up catching the 912. That's Yellow Strut and B Sim Racing caught up in all of the dramas. I think it was... I can't really see anything that instigated it. It looked like everyone kind of had their own moment at pretty much the exact same time that really bunched up the field and caused a huge car park at the crest of the hill. Not the start that we as commentators were hoping for, and certainly the drivers were praying that that wouldn't happen. But throughout all of this, we still have a race on our hands up at the front of BLC 3. Kimber Hay, Flemish Sim Sports, backed by Veraco, currently leading this 3-car fight, and a big winner throughout all of the madness is actually Nicholas Piegener. for carnage competition. Several places. Was actually, I think, all the way down in 5th. But now finds himself in 2nd. This is on board with Kimber Hayet as well. Another driver that gained a lot throughout all of the madness. Cars going skywards. And he just parts the choppy waters, drives on through. Wonderful awareness. But when you go into an incident like that at the top of that much speed, you're almost asking for trouble. So he was very, very lucky to get away with that cleanly.
Yeah, you would like to say it's the reflexes of a fighter jet pilot. Of course, he does hold an amateur piloting license. He does fly them airplanes, indeed, Kid Behate. So whether that came to be any good there, I'm not quite sure. But that was a very chaotic. It was a very chaotic start, and everybody seems to have lost a bit of body parts here and there. Look at the front car, the front of Fabrice Cornelis' machine there. It's certainly taken a punch. And Nicolas Pigneur has gained so much time there as well. Here comes Cornelis, though, for the class lead on Kim Behate.
Here we go, side by side into turn 1 onto the apex beautifully. Even though there's damage on the front of Fabrice Cornelis' car, you wouldn't have believed it the way he was able to have the confidence in the front end to grip up like that into turn 1. Gets the move done very nicely indeed. Semtech E-Team back on fine form, back in the lead of the race. As what happened here? Oh, just a touch onto the brake, onto the grass, on the brakes, and a huge snap into the wall. Thankfully, he didn't catch where he was racing with there. That was very, very scary stuff for Biesmans in that situation. He's got a lot of damage on the front end, though. There's actually another incident here. Jerome Vatler, bouncing over the curbs. Suspension not happy at all. Looks to be too stiff there for Vatler. How does he rejoin? Don't quite see, but judging by the fact that he's still going around and is on the track, you'd imagine that he didn't rejoin too dangerously. Now here we go, and Junes and Pi last time around setting identical lap times. So I think as if we can look at the fastest laps of the race in BLC 1. I'm not sure if we can find a way. That was the last lap. I want to see if we can look at the fastest laps, because look, identical to the thousands. That's how close the battle is up in front. That's how evenly matched these pair of drivers are.
It's pretty incredible, right? That's but it also goes to show just how well Oscar Pi and Valkyrie competition are actually able to come in there and sort of bring the fight to an Ash competition. At the head of BLC 1 is Steven de Leersnyder, who's just trailing the front trio ever so slightly. One of the late apex, that long left-hander, as he does. Another long right-hander coming up here. Just want to make sure you get the great exit as well. Careful not to grip the grass on the outside. That's a dangerous mistake to make. This is, of course, in the boot section of the track here. Another right-hander and a lot of drivers choosing to extend early days in the race. The left-hander into the tight final sector as well. And if you're unlucky enough to spin the car in this sector, Edward, you might find that it can be very hard indeed to actually get it turned around again with the turning circle of any race car, basically.
Absolutely, especially in these in the front-wheel drive cars, because you can't do the old tried and true tactic of lighting up the rears to get that extra bit of rotation. You take the traction drive, just light up the rears and spin the car around like the pendulum effect. No, you just have to really wait and almost do 3-point turns to find your way through, as we see Maxime Van Hove putting a lap already on one of the TCR cars. In fact, I think that is Arnage competition, Nuno Henriquez. And it's not the start that Arnage were hoping for, really, was it, Hassa? They were caught up in that big incident, were on pole position in BLC 4, but find themselves now 10 seconds back from Ben Pines, currently in the lead for Flamer Sim Sports red by Baraka. So a wonderful start for Flemish in BLC 4. You can see there, the Hyundai Elantra, very, very nice car, very fun to drive, I must say. A car that's so popular in its class as well, just because of how nice it's to drive, but also how quick it is. Does, of course, mean that drivers in other cars, I think the Audi might struggle a little bit here. Shame, of course, that we don't have Honda Civics or the other Hyundai. Not sure what on earth it is, but I know there's another Hyundai somewhere in...
It's a Veloster. It's a Veloster. Yes.
Yeah, shame we don't have that, but of course there is a limit to the variety of cars iRacing lets us put out. I think it's used to be something like 6, but they've bumped it up over the past few iterations of the build now to, I think, allow us 8 different models.
8. Here is Thomas Robin for AC Motorsports as well. A lot of drivers being held up there early days. And the Veloster, Edward, that name sort of gives you vibes of a hamster riding a bicycle. Veloster, I don't know.
I have no idea what goes on in your brain.
It's called ADHD, my friend, and it's a wonder of many things sometimes. It can be quite interesting. Anyway, on to the next subject, which is indeed, I was just going to say, if it was me in that Hyundai sort of PR department, or whoever does the naming of the models, I would probably have chosen something else. Anyway, BLC2 has got the action at the moment here, as the battle is for the lead between GTE Racing by Red and ART Sim Racing as well. And Matthias de Heine really puts in a good bit of... well, he's certainly making his presence known to Maxim Vandenhove. And it's 3.5 seconds from these two down to Benjamin de Pape.
I mean, this is brilliant stuff, isn't it? You often see close battling in this series, and immediately we're not disappointed at all. Battles for the lead in BLC 2. BLC 3 started to quieten down a little bit, although there are close battles further behind. This is one of them, Ben Hicks, behind Jens Goossens. Jens in the Porsche, which is actually quite good at getting the initial rotation. Struggles a little bit through some of the higher speed sections, but on initial turning on the brakes, there aren't really many cars in that class that can do better. And the Porsche Cayman have to be careful though when these GT3 cars, the BLC1 class, makes its way through. Can start to upset the battles a little bit and make them spread out just a touch, but where Ben Hicks was slowed, Jens Goossens was slowed just 5 seconds later, and the battle, well, it's back on now, Hasse.
It is as it, well, ever so often happens to be with traffic, but you do get caught out sometimes as well, and it can be so frustrating as a driver, finding yourself to lose a second, maybe even 2 or more seconds, in a situation where you basically, it's just down to bad luck a lot of the time, and even, of course, as I've said many times before, and I'm sure I'm going to say it again, the traffic giveth and it taketh away as well. There is indeed, by the way, live timing, and I shall be glad to share the link to it in chat for you all to see. Actually, I'm not in the virtual Belcar channel on my YouTube user, so this might not work, but it might just work anyways. Let's hope it does. But it's in YouTube chat at the moment here. This battle still raging on between Jens Goossens and Ben Hicks for Ignium Motorsports Spark. So plentiful, the Astons as well, and a nice car to see. A nice competition. The 100 car here had a great start through all the chaos, went from quite far down the order, and they seem to have the race pace to match it as well. They're keeping it honest at the head of the field, although Fabrice Cornelis in the Simtech machine has opened up the gap by around 3 seconds. That's even carrying a bit of damage to his front end. Just shows the kind of talent we're working with here. There's a close battle as well between Kenny Heremans and Håkon Grepstad, the Norwegian, in the Ignium Lamborghini, the 26 car, as Grepstad muscled his way through on the entrance onto the chicane there. Yeah.
Look at this. He's forced so narrow into the corner, but still slings his way on through. That's wonderful for Håkon Grepstad. Another thing as well, I love the Ignium Motorsport livery. Look at that asymmetrical blue on the right, white on the left. It does look absolutely wonderful. There's so many amazing liveries. This looks almost reminiscent of the Williams machine, actually. The Kenny Heremans car, 33 PSI by RPM. It's very reminiscent of this season's Williams in Formula 1. Just look at that, Hassan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's actually... It's sort of an under-the-radar design when you see it from the front, but it's actually a really well thought-out pattern down the side of the Audi. And the Audi is notoriously difficult to design a livery format. Kenny Heremans getting it massively sideways. I think he's had some kind of contact somewhere along the way, and that wall cam there. The scream of the engines as they pass by, just a few centimeters there indeed. It's wonderful to see it there. Oh, what you don't like to see is a big set like that and a bit of contact on the outside of the corner as well. Exiting for Kenny Heremans. Oh, just 14 minutes in, Edward. You get a feeling that it's not going to work out for hours like that. Here's Nathan Thonon, who's had a bit of an issue for himself, I'm afraid. Into the final sector with the JWS car. Did they make contact? They might just have touched, I'm afraid.
From that angle there, it didn't look like they came together. It looked like there was maybe a touch of net code, perhaps. There wasn't a lot of room afforded on the inside, to be honest, from Nathan Thonon. Didn't give much room at all, so it's difficult to see where the car on the inside could have gone. It couldn't really have gone any further left hand side. If there is there are people in the YouTube chat asking for the live timing link. If you go to the description of this stream, you can see it there, live timing. Click the link there and that should be able to give you all of the information, all of the data and numbers you can see. And then also there's a little link just underneath it that shows the track map where all of the cars are, where all of the action is on track as well. So hopefully that is helpful for you all, and we can all focus on the racing and the action that's on the screens, all of the intricate numbers, seeing just how close everyone is on track. And you don't need to just look at numbers, you can just look here presently at the battle in BLC1. Also Oscar Pye trying to make his way through, and actually under considerable pressure from Olivier Bultink now. Sim District 5 eSports GT3 trying to get P2 in their clutches. All the while they are battling, and Jimmy and Tunes is starting to break away.
And the harder they battle down here, the easier the job for Jimmy and Tunes in breaking away from the two behind. That is basically self-explanatory. By the way, thank you for that lovely bit of information, Edward, on where to find the live timing link.
Problem. I know it's YouTube's a bit of a nightmare sometimes, because you can't post links into YouTube chat anymore. You used to be able to, but you can't do it at all. So yeah, that's just for future reference as well. I think all of this virtual Belcars there is all available on live timing. But yeah, that was very brave from the pair of them, Oscar Pye and Olivier Bultink, sending it the inside at the toe of this Watkins Glen boot section. There's a lock up ahead, and both Olivier Bultink and Oscar Pye seizing that opportunity to get through the traffic. Now they're coming up to what was the battle for the lead in BLC3. Just coming to the rear end now of Kim De Hay. Which way is he going to go, left or right or left? Olivier Bultink caught in two minds, then eventually commits to going around the outside. That has, of course, given a bit of an advantage to Oscar now, who's got about 8/10 of an advantage as they make their way across the line to start the 11th lap of this race. Steven Leerschneider, making his way through some of the traffic as well. Needs to be conscious of John Rebstad, who is closing that gap down to P4 now.
Yeah, and he's already made his way into the top 5, the Norwegian, so... good start from the 26 car here at Ignium Motorsports. Further down we have a nice bit of battling, and yet again, I just gotta love that wall cam there on the exit of the final corner. Oh, it gets the blood boiling. But in a good way, though. In a good way. Oh. All positive here. Matthias de Heine, who's on the tail of Maxime van den Hove. He's been battling the 12 car for quite some time now and doesn't really seem to have been able to mow his way through just yet. And we did hear from the organizers, Edward, that some of the Porsche Cup cars had been struggling to even complete a single fuel stint on the front tires. You know, that the front tires would basically degrade to nothing and they would get the meatball flag before they would empty their fuel tanks. So that's certainly something to be aware of for the Porsche Cup drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it's never fun driving a car with worn tyres, but especially worse if those tyres wear out before you've done a full tank of fuel. Now, with the meatball flag, that usually as well signifies that when you have no tread, tyre racing then simulates a puncture, and that's when you can really struggle for pace. So it's not even like you can grin and bear, wait until the... because when you get a meatball flag, it's basically you have 3 laps to come in and serve damage. This was a replay actually of, I think, the start here, and this was Olivier Bultink. Look how close the front 3 are, and then everything starts to unfold in behind them with the big incident.
Yeah, and exactly. I just wanted to try and go back and see just where that started and who that was, who actually went around and around.
It was
there,
the 145 that initially got caught in it.
Yeah, that was indeed John Bruins. So we'll do our best to see whatever happened to John Bruins here. Slight contact, suddenly straight into the wall.
Not much room given to him by the Valkyrie car there, I think, Hasser, and then oof. Yeah. It's a classic Watkins Glen lap 1 incident, Hasser. If there's never a small one at that area of the track, that's for certain. Just see on the inside, he's on the curb.
That's a bit of a net code.
It's a little bit of a net code. However, the 677 does move from the right-hand side of the circuit over to the left.
Yeah, but he has to do so.
He has to do it, of course, to open up the next corner.
Yeah, I think in order to make the corner, hard. I think, yeah, maybe a little too close there for comfort. But I think awful incident in the end. But I think a net code. I would have loved the commentary coming in there in the YouTube chat. Fancy Pullmans. Indeed. Matthias de Heine still behind Maxime van den Hove. And then behind these two, it's Philip Fliegen who's pushing for duct tape here on the tail of the 999 Flemish SimSports yellow machine. I'm just watching underneath the rear wing. So they told me something about a certain thing coming back to the car, but I don't see it yet, which I'm massively disappointed about, of course. A bit of friendly fire there from the Flemish TCR machine there, just ever so slightly making a nuisance of themselves. In no way really hampering Philip Fliegen. By the way, of course, Benjamin de Pape is right on the tail, so a 3-way fight for what is effectively 3rd place in BLC2 at the moment with these wonderful Porsche Cup cars. And as I said,
first is close as well, Hasser.
Oh, yes, it is. It's actually very close indeed. Here's Van den Hove is having to defend very hard into the chicane. Good call there, Edward. Nice to just spot that it is what's happening. And you can't say Matthias de Heide isn't trying, but nice defending as well from Vandenhove. And good to see them both coming out on the other side, still well and alive.
Yeah, I just saw it out the corner of my eye. I thought, let's quickly go, because they were very close together there into the chicane. Maxime Vandenhove, GTE Racing by Red Ant, holding on. One more lap at the very least. But you can just see Matthias de Heide really aggressive, really racy here, trying to find a way through. Not quite work out from looking down on the inside, not actually committing to a move, rather just keeping the car nice and stable after passing the Cayman BLC3 car. Not wanting to get involved. Kimber Hayt there, just flashing his headlights at the Porsche Cup car ahead of him. But this is a battle that we've been seeing carrying on for quite a while in the background. Ben Hicks still in behind Jens Goossens. But it's closer than ever here, Haas. So as long as Ben Hicks doesn't get held up too much through the S's and can use this GT3 car to his advantage, he might be able to shoot of a move in towards the chicane.
Yeah, indeed. But it seems that he isn't quite close enough to the rear end of the Porsche. And sometimes if you're in a situation where you can see, okay, that the car in front is basically going that 1 or 2 tenths a lap quicker than you would do yourself, maybe on your own race pace with a fuel car and everything. Sometimes it just isn't worth it. As you can see, he's not really pushing super hard indeed, at least on some of the corner exits. So he could be trying to just save the fuel and conserve the tires for later in the stint. Given the really hot track temperatures that we've been hearing about, see the weather here, 43 degrees now, track temp. As the clouds are coming in, we could actually see the track temperature come down quite rapidly as well, and of course anything would make it easier for especially the BLC2 cars there to actually finish a stint on their front tires.
Yeah, it's just so difficult out here to really make these tires last. I would be amazed actually if any of these GT3 cars in BLC1 class actually make it without needing to take a stop on every single pit stop. If they can manage to double stint, I would be very surprised indeed. I mean, it's of course the strategy in GT3 to try and double stint the tires, but yeah, it's going to be very tricky for them to actually go ahead and do that successfully, I would imagine here, Haas, because of just how hot the track surface is at Watkins Glen today. Spotting up on track, as we can see, it's the hand ahead of Maxime Vandenhove, but I wonder for how much longer. Vandenhove caught out a little bit by traffic here, and this was the move round the outside into turn 1. That's the hand. Oh, just so committed and very brave around the outside, carrying so much momentum, and there wasn't anything that Maxime could have done to answer back, it seems.
Yeah, good call from Robin Maas there in chat to let us know about that, because it's a lot of stuff happening, and we do our best to give ourselves 4 or 5, maybe even 6 set of eyes and keep a good watch on everything. But sometimes we, even as a spider, you would struggle to see everything here.
So hard, isn't it, with, like we say, well over 40 cars out on the circuit. We need about, 20 pairs of eyes to see what's going on.
It's a pretty accurate estimation there, Edward. Indeed, there's Thijs van den Berge, who's just behind Fabrice Cornelis in the leading BLC3 machine. Second place in BLC3 here is an Irish competition, the 100 machine of Nicolas Pigneur. And then Kid Behate for Flemish in third place. Fourth, Jens Goossens for Sim District. And then fifth, Ben Hicks in the Ignium Motorsports Aston Martin. Still Jimmy and Toons leading the way, 2.5 seconds clear of Valkyrie competition. Not a lot, but he's been incredibly steady so far. There's Oscar Pye and Olivier Boltink, who was really, really close, Edward, to the tail of Valkyrie competition. A good 15 minutes or so is still close, of course, but it seems like he's maybe dropped a little bit back through traffic, or just decided to give a little bit of breathing space to himself as well.
Yeah, I think he's got the traffic to thank for that gap, really, Hasser. It's been very busy out here on the circuit today, so of course that has affected drivers of all classes, but especially the fights in BLC 1, it seems. This is Jan Biesmans, just earlier on in the race, QSR Racing eSports, really losing just the rear end of the car at the toe of the boot. Thankfully, not anyone coming through to collect him, so he was just able to get back up and running nice and cleanly. Meanwhile, his teammate, or stablemate rather, for Simwell.be, Willi Schneider, very close to the rear end of Hakon Grebstad. We actually saw Hakon Grebstad, I think, was behind Willi Schneider earlier on, so there has been a change of position in this battle.
Oh, a little bit of a trade of paints there into the final corner, but aggressive move, but very much within the limits, I would say, from Grebstad. And getting on Willi Schneider up into 4th place there, so very good pace from the 26 car. Willi Schneider, though, still within almost within touching distance there, just under half a second, but I think he's gonna get caught out. And just getting his exit slightly compromised by the TCR, but you could say, of course, then Grebstad did get his entrance ever so slightly compromised as well.
Yeah, it's really exciting though to see these battles, Hassett, to be honest. I mean, it's obviously early days in the race. We're only halfway through the first hour, but it's really, really great to see so many fights up and down the field. Just watching drivers actually trying to make their way back up through the order. Jordi Janssens in the midst of the BLC2 drivers, just trying to close his way up through after a very disappointing start for the JWS Motorsport driver. This is on board though with Ben Thines, Primary Simsports bred by Viraco. And I mean, if memory serves right, I think it was a pretty torrid time for both Flemish cars, wasn't it? I think we saw the TCR car really struggle at Spa. Or was it Carnage that struggled at Spa? I can't quite remember. It's been a while.
It's been a while indeed. If I recall correctly, Carnage came in there and won it, didn't they? And somebody did have trouble indeed. Was that Flemish? There was something with a disconnecting.
I think was it pedals or something?
Yeah, pedals, or maybe just a disconnect in itself. But there was something on the technical side. I do remember that.
He still managed to do all right though and come back through, I believe, for a podium in class. That wasn't the end of it, but they were still very, very good in the race. And unfortunately, they didn't quite get the result I think their performance deserved. But here, they're certainly on track for it. At the second round of this season, the 3 hours of Watkins, almost says 6 hours, because of course that is going to be coming up next week. Good practice for drivers in BLC 1, with it being a GT3 6-hour endurance event. Good for them to get their eyes in and really get to grips with this track before many other drivers they'll be racing against. I don't think they'll have this level of knowledge and practice going into the race. But then, of course, it's not necessarily just about practice, is it? There's a championship on the line, and it's still ever so close between Tunes, Pye and Bultink. The gap between Pye and Tunes has actually come down, I believe, Hasser. Oscar Pye making some inroads here on our large competition in Jimmy Tunes.
Yeah, absolutely so. He's clawed back about a second's worth of time there on Antunes, who seems to be getting into some relatively heavy traffic here as well, so that could be what's causing the upset. Look at that mid-corner. Caught up and then having to go 3 wide through the middle there on Ash. Competition and Jimmy Antunes, making it look like that that Bike Messenger movie, which I don't recall the name of because it was Premium Rush or whatever it was. It was pretty poor. Anyways, still looks like something out of Crazy Taxi or something here. It's quite impressive here. Olivier Bultink doing his best to keep on the tail. The leaders in BLC 1 still within 3 seconds here, and it seems to me that the traffic has brought them together just ever so slightly. Oscar Pai just keeps on getting a nice run through there, and sometimes it's a little bit easier when you're following another of your own class cars through the traffic, but we could also see him being held up as traffic does indeed giveth and taketh. Interestingly as well, though, he'll be close to the slipstream range of the Carnage car, saying that, of course, he did get held up. And he lost about 0.3 of a second through turn 1. Now, Delia Schneider is closing in now on Håkan Grebstad. And SimWorld.be Rapid could be planning for a move to retake 4th place here. After 34 minutes of racing, so we should still be a good 25 minutes away from the first round of pit stops. Still time for drivers to make the most of the opening stints.
I just love seeing the cars go through that chicane. They really do push it to the absolute limit here. Starting to see a bit more cloud cover as well, Haas, which is good news for the drivers and their tyres. You just see on board with Blue Schneider. A little bit more cloud cover, and the track is mercifully cooling down. Was 43 degrees, it's dropped by a whole 4 to now down to 39 degrees out on circuit, which is wonderful, especially for drivers with BLC 2, the Porsche Cup cars. Really, like we mentioned, struggling for tyres, having meatball flags before the end of their fuel stints. So thankfully they are probably in better stead to make it till the end of this first stint of the race. And hopefully the remainder of the race as well. As the evening goes by, the track will cool down even further. But I do think we will be seeing pretty much every single GT3 car taking tyres and then praying that the track cools enough that they might be able to take a gamble and double stint the final stop when, of course, the track is at its coldest.
Yeah, what we would expect, at least if the cloud cover continues to stay in place, or at least if it doesn't become all sunny again, because it's sometimes hard to predict some of these midday runs of the cloud that comes and goes, and sometimes you see the temperature coming straight back up again. So sometimes you have to take a gamble in those situations, and it might be viable with the double stint, it might not in the end. And look at the car of Håkan Grebstad against a massive upset there from the BMW up ahead, and Delia Schneider is right on his tail all of a sudden. Really good onboard footage that really gives a good idea of just how hectic it is to drive a multi-class race here in Watkins Glen.
Yeah, Håkan Grebstad will be so upset with that. I mean, there was nothing that the BMW could have done. I think that was Jorik Swinen for QSR Racing eSports just going through the chicane at his normal racing pace. But of course, that's the differential between the high downforce GT3 cars and the slightly less downforce GT4s. Seeing as well, just a little bit further ahead, I think that's Queen van Hooydonk that these drivers will have to now find a way past. Here they go. At the end of the pit section now is Delia Schneider going to find his way past, yes, but loses a little bit of time to the car ahead. So for now, Delia Schneider loses out on that occasion. Game on though for second place. Olivier Bultink right now back up with Oscar Pai. Julian Tunes has been able to extend an advantage, just the second gained from the traffic, really working in favour of Carnage competition here. But now, as we make our way towards the chicane, Hassa, are we going to see a fight? Is Olivier Bultink going to manage to make this too wide? He's got a bit of a run, backs out of it for now. The traffic just seemingly keeping him behind as they head into the braking zone.
It's seems to me that Olivier Bolting is carrying a bit of damage to his car as well. You might speculate that if he's held up by more than 4 or 5 kilometers an hour on the straights, he could be wanting to just try and see if he can sit behind the Valkyrie competition machine until the first round of pit stops. He's close, but he's not really aggressively close. He's rather just sitting there and doesn't seem to be in a hurry to actually get past at the moment. So could be trying to just play the long game at the moment, save the tires. He might be on for trying the double stint as well. You never know. Would require a very precise and smooth effort all the way through both first and second stints there, though. That was very, very close indeed.
Here we go, Hasse.
Here we go with
into turn 1.
Bump draft. Bump drafting the Lamborghini of Valkyrie competition down the straight. I think that's the...
I think, Hasse, that tells us everything we need to know. Olivier Bolting is quite content to actually stay in behind Oscar Pye. He's instead focusing on saving the fuel. He had an amazing run out of the final corner, a perfect chance to sling it up the inside and go for second place, but he opted not to. He's saving the fuel to try and extend this first stint.
Oh! Fun and over.
What's gone on here, Hasse? They were class leaders, and now all of a sudden they find themselves 4 seconds back from ART Sim Racing.
Yeah, well, ART took the lead through a legit move. They've fallen back. I think it's just been through a few mistakes, maybe, of Max Van den Hove. Their race control is ready indeed. And I would expect them to have been busy as well looking at that lap 1 incident. Trying to figure out what was the root cause of it all. Bravo Fallen here and Alexander Raz. The 2 Audis. This is for 8th place at the moment in BLC 1. Of course, really close to one another here.
Part of me is wondering, because we saw some amazing pace, Hasse, from Flemish Sim Sports at Spa. They just haven't been able to get that same level of pace at Watkins Glen, and I'm thinking maybe they've signed up for the wrong car. I mean, they've got obviously the graphic correctly there, but I would have thought, you know, why wouldn't they just stick with what they knew? The Lamborghini looked very nice for him.
Yeah, but there can be so many reasons for decisions like this. It could be they don't have setups quite that competitive on a hot track. It could be the drivers maybe not being too fond of the track collectively. It could be so many things in the end, down to things that aren't necessarily the car. From one Ras to another, it's Christoph Ras and the 999 on the tail of Philipp Fliegen, who's gotten through, I think, there, if I recall correctly. I think Ducktail's up into 3rd in class, yeah, indeed. Here is the move. A bit of laps. Oh, that was close squeeze outside of the chicane. That's gutsy. Throwing it in there. And you might say that looks very Sendy indeed, but to anyone who ever goes and sees these Porsche Cup cars race in real life, the scene is very much the same, isn't it, Edward?
Yeah, they're really, really good on the brakes, these Porsche Cup cars. They don't have any ABS. It'd be difficult to believe that they don't when you see how good they stop. Look at this, perfectly displaying the car's ability just to stop on a 6p piece, or a 5p piece. I'm not sure why a 6p piece would exist. A 5p piece Christoph Reis sending it up the inside. What a move that was to take back third place. Well, it's in the background. BLC 1 drivers try and make their way through. Maybe that's be John Bruins.
It is going to be a carbon copy of the move before. Philip Fliegen, back and forth they go. Very, very nice battle. And BLC 1 is not the first time we've seen it, and that's the... Is that... Oh, there's contact! I'm afraid there's contact. Was there contact? That's the question. We'll immediately...
There wasn't.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, does it? We'll just go slightly further back to see if we can get any
just
wiser on what happened.
Himself.
Yeah, he does. I'm sorry for calling the contact there.
But that was, I mean, the awareness, if we could have a look at that again, Hasse, but from on board the 145 John Bruins, I mean, that happened right in front of him. Very little time to react at all. Just gonna see it here. Oh, that's a brown trouser moment if ever there was one. That is new race overalls, please. For John Bruins. He's ruined his last pair. He needs a new one because that was absolutely butt-clenching stuff there. Sim District 5 eSports GT3. And look at this. More bump drafting.
I'm not sure that Oscar Pai is too content with this situation. I think he might be having a few phrases there for what's going on. But obviously, with a Lambo that's going to be down on top speed with the aero damage, I would expect at least that's the reason. You see Olivier, it's bolting.
Needs to be careful
what he's doing.
Don't forget that Huracan, the front of it, it's like a wedge. You need to be careful not to lift up the rear tyres of Valkyrie competition, because if it does and it causes a big incident for Valkyrie, knocks him out of the race, that's as well going to knock Olivier Bulting and Sim District 5 eSports potentially out of the race with a penalty from the steward. So he needs to be very careful with how he's bump drafting. It's been going well for now, but all it takes is for one little bit of a hiccup on iRacing's part with the neck code, with the collision detection, and it could be race ending for the pair of them. But it's working for now, so you know, it's entertaining, it's good, but always keep it in your mind that things can go wrong. And as well, Hasse, throughout all of this, I've been doing a little bit of sleuthing, a little bit of investigation in the background. Sorry, Hasse, go on.
No, I was just going to say Jens Hoosens has made his way up into third place in the Porsche Cayman, through on Kim Behade, and they've now got Ben Hicks for company in the Ignium Aston Martin as well. So an excellent three-way battle now going on in BLC for third place. But of course, Edward, do enlighten us on your investigations.
Well, we're doing some sleuthing, some investigations in the background. I have found out that I'm an idiot. Who would have guessed? It is actually Flemish Sim Sports White by Veraco, who have been in the Audi since the start of the season at Spa. I've been keeping it in my mind for some reason. I think it was because after we did the broadcast at Spa, we had the final race of the Dynamics Endurance Series that I think we also covered, Hasse.
Yeah.
At Spa, not too long afterwards, which then got it in my mind that at Spa, when the last round was at Spa, I remember seeing a Flemish car in a Lamborghini, so that must have been the car they were driving, but I got my series all confused and muddled up. So it has been the Audi for Alexander Eyes and Flemish Sim Sports White by Veraco since the start of the season. I've just been a bit of a silly sausage.
Oh, look at this run now for the Flemish car on the Porsche of Jens Hoosens. He's already on the inside as they pass the start-finish line side by side. Into turn one they go. And I'm going to be having a hard time imagining that Porsche being able to defend that. Anyhow, he's going to make it a good try there on the outside. He gets a good run. And he's certainly not giving up. Hoosens on the outside. And it might become a three-wide situation here as Ben Hicks. Oh, there was almost contact there. There's another car in behind as well. That's Ken van Hooydonk, and it's a four-way duel here in BLC 3. Brilliant stuff, and van Hooydonk is there to take advantage. Hicks is up through, and it's the double position lost here for Kim Behade.
Yeah, Kim, I saw the brake lights flash, and that was what really scared me because he came ever so close to the barriers on the right-hand side. This is a replay of Philip Vlegen's moment just across the front end of John Ruins. That was so amazing to see all of these cars battling it. 3 Aston Martins, 1 Porsche Cayman. What's happened here with the Lischneider?
Some kind of issue here with the rear just going on him. And he's in a evasive action being taken, but he gets it rolling against Steven de Lischneider. So that's great to see. Ben Hicks passed on Hoosens. They still have it going. These two, look at this. This is on the replay. I have a slight suspicion that this battle is still going on if we rejoin, and indeed it is. Ben Hicks is up into third again. I'm sorry, that's not Hicks. That's Hoosens. And now comes Van Hooydonk. From out of nowhere.
Doing so well to hold on against these Aston Martins. They're so quick in a straight line. He has the advantage just about on the brakes and on initial corner entry, but these Aston Martins, they are really nice bits of kit. They're very quick indeed. He's going to be helped by these two going side by side in the background. Koen Van Hooydonk, Ben Hicks just battling it out. Van Hooydonk having the advantage now into the first corner, holding on to P3. And all the while they're battling, Maurice Cornelis is going to be rubbing his hands with glee. He's extending his advantage by well over 15 seconds now, as well as Huguenot in second. Now, Jens Goosens, can he hold on? These Astons are so good at this area of the track, through the S's and up towards the chicane. He's just keeping himself where he needs to be, right on the apex to frustrate the chasing Astons. This is wonderful though from him. And there's a moment there as Goosens loses the rear, and now he's under pressure, and look at that, down through the chute. Goosens loses out. Vin Van Hooydonk shoots up the inside and up into third place. This was the move. Jens Goosens really struggling, I think, and unfortunately having to concede third place.
I'm afraid there's been a relatively large incident here involving the Team Brab Porsche hitting the wall there. And
he was lucky, very lucky actually from Jean there, because he hit the
look at this now as he comes across the track and picks up, and that's a massive incident. Oh, that's almost taken out the BLC 2 leaders, and that's a dangerous situation as well. Oh my word.
And that's how not to rejoin from Team Alpha Brab. Unfortunately, I think they will be getting not only a hefty repair bill, but also a very extensive penalty, I would imagine. The initial mistake was all by themselves, and then they came across the path right onto the racing line, and yeah, you just don't do that. You just really don't. There's Vandenberger getting into the tie barriers again. Soft tie barriers might have been able to keep him going. There's a little bit of damage just on the right hand front wheel arch, but that seems to be good. And actually, Jens Goosens, he could be the cork in the bottle here, because he's not at all on the pace of Koen Van Hooydonk. And now Ben Hicks is going to be wanting to get through sooner rather than later now as they come towards the chicane. No chance for a move just yet, instead focusing fully on the exit and getting this next long looping right-hander absolutely nailed down to see if there's a move in the offing down into the chute, which there won't be. Goosens is too far in front. This is a wonderful fight though, Haas. So these BLC3 cars, they just don't disappoint. They have given us some amazing battles over the race last time out at Spa, and they're doing the exact same thing here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and what's happened here is what we usually have happening in the Belcar series is that I look at the time, race time, and then a lot of stuff happens. And then I look at the time again, and I think, oh, what's that, 5, 7, 10 minutes? No, it's rather closer to 25 minutes that's passed, which tells you something about the level of intensity here. Yeah, there's a stop and go, 60 seconds stop and go for the number 9 car, unsafe rejoin and causing an accident. So that is indeed the Alpha Brab higher time Porsche. It's now in the pits It's going to serve an extra 60 seconds.
And I don't think they can really complain about that, can they, Hasse? It was, as soon as we saw it happen, both you and I think as well, Team Alpha Brad knew that was a stonewall penalty that would be coming their way. 60 seconds stop and go. So when they get the car repaired after the tow, they'll exit the pit lane and then they'll have to come through a second time to serve that penalty. So it's basically a double whammy for them. They really are going to suffer, but they don't really have anyone else to blame but themselves, unfortunately, as here we go. Ben Hicks up the inside of Jens Goossens. How late can he go on the brakes? We know how good the Cayman is, and the superior braking ability of the Cayman is just enough to hold on. That's wonderful stuff from Jens Goossens. An amazing defensive drive. Needs to be conscious of the race leaders just passing him by, which he does. Wonderfully done there from Jens Goossens to hold on to P4 and BLC3. And now that slowed up Ben Hicks, and he's under immense pressure from Kim in behind Flemish eSports Black. They can sniff a position here.
Yeah, they'd love to be able to, but it's interesting to see just how much better the Cayman is on the brakes. Really able to go deep into the corner. Might lack that little bit of straight line pace, but he's just about able to defend himself. He's doing an absolute hero's drive here, as now he's becoming threatened again, and you can hear the growl of some V10 in the background here for Kim Hayden. Oh, that's Oscar Pai, of course. Oh, he's having to go left and right, or the other way around, I guess, but swerving indeed.
Olivia Baltic's just going to come up on the left-hand side here, you would imagine. Just about hear it there, you can see it now. And that's the battle for P2 in BLC1. They were about half a second apart, Pai and Bultink. They're going to start to throw a bit of a spanner in the works in this fight. No, they don't actually. They all get through into turn one. And now this is where Jens Goossens is really going to be under immense pressure. And while the battling's been going on, look, Cedric Wouters, he can start to smell the little bit of blood in the water as these cars start to battle ahead. And he knows sooner rather than later he could find himself in the midst of this battle for P4.
Just having a look at the lap times here, Edward. Cedric Wouters' fastest lap of the race was a 1:54.78. That's almost a second quicker than all the three cars ahead of him. And on his last lap, he did a 1:54.9, which is a second and a half quicker than all the cars ahead of him. At least the three cars ahead of him in the line there. So not only is he catching, he's flying up to these three cars at the moment. And that's going to, yet again, make this three-way a four-way battle for fourth place now. And I think Glen van Hooydonk there was able to take third and sort of drive away from the trio there. He'll be immensely happy that there is some shielding at least here, because there's Cedric Wouters in the Traxxas by JWS Motorsports 25 Aston Martin, and he's coming for him. So much to look forward to here. What a fantastic race it's been so far. All the way around in the lead battle there in BLC2 and BLC1 as well, but especially here in BLC3, Edward. I think this is where this race has really come to life in the opening hour here.
Oh, it has. It's exploded into action here at Watkins Glen. Jens Goossens hanging on for dear life into P4. And just the rear shot, you could see how close these Aston Martins are. First to come through would be Ben Hicks if he's close enough into turn one, which I don't think he will be. He'll be right up to the rear bumper, but not close enough to make a move. So instead, the focus will be on getting the exit nailed on. As fastest lap comes through, Cedric Wouters. He is now fully in this fight, Hasse. He is going to be absolutely rapidly closing up to the back end of Kim Verheyt. So that Flemish eSports car needs to be very, very afraid indeed. But look at this now. Ben Hicks, he's looking to the left. He's going to start to look to the right as well as Kenny Hermans comes into the pits first of the BLC1 cars to make their scheduled pit stop. Very short though, and this is, I thought for a moment we were going to see Ben Hicks try and make a move, but actually as the other Ignium car, the Ignium Lamborghini Hakon Grebstad coming through, that unfortunately prevented Ben Hicks from taking advantage and finding his way past into the chicane. And now look at this. Barako Flemish eSports all the way around the outside. Is he going to get the move done? No, he doesn't. Huge moment now for the JWS Motorsports car to come on through and try and take a position. And it's not going to work out. JWS Motorsports sent around the outside. Now what can he do as they make their way through the toe of the boot and now towards the heel? I think he's got the move done. Yes, he does. Is there going to be a fight back perhaps down the inside? No. Flemish Simswat's having to concede that position all the while. Jens Goossens, how is he doing this? How is he holding on? Because Ben Hicks has been so rapid, piling on the pressure, but not finding the way through.
Yeah, it's an incredible run for him so far, and he'll be sad to see it come to an end, having to pit in here, and I think they'll be hoping just to be able to slide out in front after this upcoming round of pit stops. So far, doing a brilliant job to just about stay in front here as they pass the I'm sorry, that's the carnage competition TCR machine, BLC4, the Audi. Look at Wouters here on the tail. Try to follow the tail of the Audi. This is a difficult one to call because he's gonna get the run, and he might go another way around the back marker. Oh, I'm not sure this is gonna work out well, Edward. Someone's gonna have to pull out. Oh, and it didn't. I'm afraid it didn't.
That's both Ignium out and Flemish out of the fight. What on earth happened here? So Ben Hicks, he thinks he should be safe, but then there's collision in behind Flemish into the back end of the Audi that then has a domino effect into Ben Hicks, and there's just a solid wall there. Ben Hicks, he's trying to slow the car down. He won't be able to do it in time. Actually, Kim Bahayet somehow keeps the car out of all the time errors and is able to actually not lose out too much. But I think Ben Hicks, you could just see as he moves away, huge damage to the front end, and that is going to need some extensive repairs. Kim Bahayet just too eager on the brakes. That's going to be I think that might be a penalty coming their way, unfortunately, which is a shame because they were having such a good race up until that point.
Yeah, indeed, it's really put a lid on the battle that we were having such a great time with, which is what I'm most upset about. How it had to come to such a sad end. And of course for Anash as well, he is still clear of the B-Sim Racing by FRT machine currently driven by Kevin Sofro. But here's Nuno Enriquez. I think the Anash Audi is okay. Those TCR machines are built like tanks. We've seen that before.
I'm just still in shock after all of that carnage going through the chicane there. It was so unfortunate to see the battle end that way, but now Cedric Wouters, he's got a great chance to find a way through on Jens Goossens, but we've seen all race long how difficult it has been to pass this Cayman. He finds a way through, surprises him up the inside, and I think he's been able to make it work. Cedric Wouters, it doesn't matter where on the track you are, you're always under threat from this number 25, it seems, at this stage of the race. He's absolutely carving his way back up through the field following the lap 1 mess that saw them fall down the order, and now it's going to be game on with the pace that they've been showing. I would not be surprised at all to see them close up to the front 3.
Yeah, I think it was also just a case of maybe just realizing just how much quicker Cedric Wouters has been going over the last few minutes in that Aston Martin. They're back in the shot. And maybe just the hope of being able to follow and get that sweet slipstream of the, as we know, the very quick Aston Martin as well. It could be beneficial in the long run for Jens Goossens. We certainly shouldn't rule the Sim District Vibe eSports Porsche GT3 machine out, or GT4, sorry, out of anything whatsoever. As we see pit stops, it's Koen Klapman ready to take over for SimTech. I believe they might have spent their fast repair on this pit stop. We're now on 2 minutes into the race, so on schedule. Dare you say, here's Cedric Wouters, he's in here as well. Van Huydon, Cousins, and Kimpe Haidt. So all done an extra lap. And also interestingly here, Edward, with a pit stop round, Scott McFall in Sim District has gotten the jump on the Valkyrie machine, and they used that fast repair. So I'm just trying to see that right-hand side front bender still looks slightly pushed in on the Vibe Lamborghini. The Sim District car, there it is. I'm not quite sure, it could just be the white color that makes it look like it's pushed in. Although I think it is. Right?
Just try. Yeah, Scott McFall now behind the wheel. I mean, both him and his teammate are so fast. We've seen this so many times in the Dynamics series. They've won the championship so handedly, didn't they, Hasse? So you were there for the final race of the season where they were dominant. So I would be very surprised if this driver pairing isn't going to be, well, very scary and formidable one all season long, I'm sure. But that's not as well count out Jonathan Poulet. He was really quick at Spa himself. I think actually he might have been the quickest of that driver lineup as well. So it's game on, but for the moment, Sim District now ahead of Valkyrie competition. Not sure for how long that will last because they're both very, very quick drivers indeed. Now this was Jeremy de Bova. Oh, and he's overcooked it into the chicane, and oh dear, that car already with a little bit of damage has now been taken into the pits, and hopefully it's not race over.
They will hopefully still have their fast repair to be able to deal with that. Oh, is that not the leading ART sim racing machine there of Matthias de Heine? It is. So he's trying to sneak his way through on the Decipit racing team machine, driven by Mohammed Yassin Soham Kharabi. We've got Milan Phaetons for QSR Racing Esports. Oh, the Aston is sliding and the BMW is overshooting the corner. And I wonder if we're still seeing, general cooling of the track now down to 38 degrees centigrade, which is still a healthy bit of track temp, but it's certainly not as wild as the 47 degrees centigrade that we saw at the start of the session.
Unfortunately as well, has to just let this Robin van Gogh confirming that they're out of the race. Unfortunately, they've got at least 15 minutes of repairs, and that'll put them several laps back, and there's no real way back into the race for them. Unfortunately, I think as well that could be the end of Jeremy de Bova and McChallenge by DB1's race as well, because I'm looking at my software. It says they've been into the pits 4 times so far this race, so you would imagine they've already used their fast repair at this point, and with an impact like that there is going to be a long time until that car is well enough to be back out on track. So I think unfortunately we've seen 2 cars retiring from this race at the 1 hour mark.
Given the carnage we saw on the opening lap, Edward, it's I'm afraid a lot of drivers and a lot of teams had to enter the pits quite early on there and use their fast repairs on that. Amazing sounds there as I'm taken away by it. But yeah, it happened so far up the field, that accident, that it also seemed to affect such a big part of the field. And indeed, as you said earlier on, when you have lap 1 incidents here at the Glen, it often is the big one. You don't really have one without it being the big one, and it certainly was the big one today as well, I'm afraid to say. And it's cooled the hopes of several teams there early.
Here we go as well, Hasse. Oh, I think I just saw something go on into the chicane there. I think someone had a huge moment. I just saw a flash of red for some reason. What's happening there with Nicola Rubala? Nicola Rubila, I think he's only just taken back control of. He's taken over control of the car, and something's gone wrong there. What on earth has happened there? Looks like potential. I mean, he's going fine here.
He's going he's going extremely slowly. Look at that, he's slowed down. There must have been something with the car. As we'll try and go on board with Rubila here. There's no drive whatsoever. I think the engine's died. And it must have been after that incident there. Something must have happened. There's no drive in that engine, it seems. And I'm afraid that's a tow at the very least for an Ash competition in BLC 4. And they were sitting second. They certainly won't be anymore. That's it's a bad luck. And then you saw something else there, and I'm afraid this is a bit of it there. That's Jorn Vendenacker. Oh, it takes a flying moment there, and yeah, heavy smash. Heavy impact with the wall. And that is certainly not well off. That car will not be safe to drive around the track, Edward. Is that be safe to say?
I mean, it's all of a sudden everything's just gone mental over the past 5 minutes. All drivers seem to be having incidents and moments, and hardware's conking out on them. It's all just exploded into madness as we see Mohammed now having a moment. Thankfully, he's not caught up. Otherwise, I think I'd just be losing my mind with the amount of cars getting involved in incidents.
Yeah, he gets it back on track. Gets it. It's on the apex, but I think he's got it under control. So we are here watching Michael Holster's 5th overall at the moment. He is. Poulet, 4/10 off of the Sim District Vibe eSports GT3 car. Still a very, very close battle for second place.
Look at this though. Game on, isn't it, for second place? Jonathan Poulet really closing in on Scott McFall. Both of them, though, in terms of lap times, actually faster than Ricardo Ferreira at this moment in time. Ricardo Ferreira's last lap was a 46.2. Scott McFall did a 45.5, so that is a considerable gain of around about 0.7 of a second, reeling in Ricardo Ferreira at a considerable rate. Of course, Ferreira might have had a little bit of traffic to worry about on that last time by, so it's not indicative maybe of the pace outright between first and then second and third. They do have a comfortable margin of around about 7.5 seconds. However, that is something to consider. But Scott McFall and Jonathan Poulet, they are very quick at this stage of the race and might find themselves closing up to our race leaders before the end of proceedings here at Watkins Glen. Game on in BLC 1. It's not over yet for the race lead. Might be over for the race lead though in BLC 3, because I mean the advantage that we're seeing at this moment in time for Koen Klopman is astounding, isn't it? 27 seconds ahead of Tom van der Kimmenade after just 1 hour and 11 minutes of racing. To be nearly half a minute ahead of the rest of your class is outrageous.
You gotta also give it to an Ash competition that they're very well with the BMW, that on the current BOP just seems to be dealt a bad hand in terms of what it's been previously, at least in the GT4 class. That car carrying a little bit of damage, I think. Might have been scraped by something at some point, but it doesn't seem to impact the car too much. There's Tom van der Kimmenade. Still keeps a healthy lead of about 8 seconds. There it is, down to Jerry Crispin, who's now taken over in the 25 machine. And they've actually done a very good job of jumping basically all the cars they were battling with before. They're now up into 3rd place and sitting there on the podium spots. There's Joshua Campfield, the American driver that's come in to the Sim District Vibe eSports Aston Martin, and de Graaf is in for Flemish. And then Yves Fredericks slightly further down in the Sim District GT4 Porsche. And they're still battling with the Ignium Aston Martin. Doesn't quite seem to have the fighting spirit at the moment here that we saw from Jens Husens, which is fair enough. Better to has it taken a knock there, Edward? Look at the right-hand side front there of the car. It looks like there's been a bit of contact. Yeah, definitely so. And he's coming into the pit series, Fredericks. So you gotta wonder just what happened. I don't really see any immediate things that pop up here on my event viewer, so I'm afraid we'll be left in the dark for now on just what happened there.
Trying to figure out exactly where that would have been, because maybe it was coming out of the toe, because there is a wall decently close there. Maybe got too eager on the throttle as well. Maybe on the turn in towards the chicane, perhaps he just brushed the wall over the curb on the inside there at the start of that section, and that's where the suspension damage was done. I can't really think of anywhere else it might have come from. I can't see anything. If there was contact between himself and another car, that would have definitely came up. So a very strange one there for Yves Fredericks. Unfortunately, it's really put a damper on what was a great race, that Sim District Porsche. They were having such a good battle, weren't they, up at front with Jens Gustens behind the wheel, and it just hasn't quite worked out for them in their second stint.
No, I'm afraid not. This is the battle for 3rd place, actually, in BLC 2 with Loic Lamolle and Robert Schumacher. And Schumacher for Berserk Racing, which literally, of course, translates into shoemaker, but it's, of course, also, at least of my generation and of our generation, it's still the biggest motorsports name, as it will be with the name Hamilton for those that are 10, 15 years younger than us. And the silence says it all. Edward does not wish to have this discussion.
I just don't do well with sort of deciding Formula One who's been the best.
No, that wasn't the case either. Really, the point of it was more to say there's each generation sort of has its great drivers, and I mean, you have your Häkkinens and your Schumachers of the late 90s and early 2000s, and
this is the part where I make everyone feel old, because I only started watching Formula One just in 2006, I believe. Yeah, just in 06.
Mr. So, could be much worse.
Could be much worse indeed.
You could be much younger as well. You could have imagine like a fresh 17-year-old there.
I wasn't around to have seen the likes of Schumacher at his very best. It was towards the end of his dominance when Alonso came onto the scene in Renault and took 2 championships, and of course, well, what a wonderful season that 2007 was right afterwards. Kimi Räikkönen managing his World Championship victory. The most recent Ferrari champion, like to throw that out there just to upset some Ferrari fans, but of course they seem to be doing a lot better this season, so I wouldn't imagine it'll be too long before they get their next champion for the Tifosi. But throughout all of this, Hassa, there is a race going on in the background, and it's a battle in BLC4 as we see all the way outside. Oh,
He's lost some pace for some reason, I think, there. Stefan Caravans.
By David Letelier. David. Yeah. David passes him all the way around the outside.
I think it's Le Chatelier, but I don't know. That would be my best approximation of... my French skills are not the worst, but also certainly not the best either. But
it's been
in proper French, it would probably be closer to Le Chatelier. But I'm not gonna. Since we have a lot of French speakers in the audience, I'm just gonna keep quiet on that one. I'm a little bit more confident nowadays, actually, in my Dutch. Actually, I did used to put in an effort to actually learn French when I was younger. I had a very good friend that is half French, half Danish. He came to Denmark as about 10-year-old, but our parents are all friends, so we've known each other for many years by now, and having been spent a lot of time at his home as a kid, and as a youngster as well. It's just natural to pick up a little bit of the French language here and there.
I mean, it was a wonderful move. They're all the way around the outside. It's been strange to see those Stefan Caravans not really coming to grips with this Watkins Glen circuit. He's struggling just a touch out here at this moment in time. Of course, that is partly as well just down to the hot temperatures. Maybe it's getting a little bit too much for some of them out here. Further back as well, though. Actually, I just had a little bit to notice as well. Chatelier did come in around about 4 laps later, so his tyres are in a much better condition than Caravans, which could be the real notice. Your tyres, after you make the stop, do need a little while to bed in, and then for the first sort of 5 or so laps afterwards, they are really rapid, and then there's almost a huge drop off, a sort of a cliff in performance, where their car then starts to settle into a bit more of a rhythm. But until you get to that cliff, you are absolutely rapid. So maybe that's what we are seeing here. Meanwhile, though, Robert Schumacher for Berserk Racing, right in behind Loic Le Mol. And if there's one thing you don't want to see behind you, if you're in Loic Le Mol's case, it's a Schumacher.
Definitely so. And one that really seems to have the pace on the 13 machine at the moment. Berserk Racing doing well here tonight. Still just looking for that opening. Might be trying to just set it up so we can use the run down through the S's, but just gets, I think, carries that slight bit too much speed at the apex. Doesn't quite hit it, but he's got a very good run here regardless. Maybe even too early as he goes to the outside. And then is the speed going to be enough? They're going to be very close to side by side. But Loic Le Mol, I think, concedes the position for now and lives to fight another day in the 222 car. That's the B-Sim Racing S machine. And there is that battle for second place overall. And I'm happy to see, Edward, that even though we haven't really seen much of it here on our pictures for the last 10 minutes or so, it's very much still happening.
It is. It's really going on in the background here. Jonathan Poulet trying to find any way past Scott McCoy, who's probably got the widest Lamborghini Huracan on the circuit right now, able to keep the very high pressurizing Valkyrie competition car in his rear view mirrors. They aren't making too many more inroads actually on Ricardo Ferreira. I was wondering if we were going to see maybe them close the gap down just a touch, but not at this moment in time. gap still 7 seconds between first from second. Scott McFall, if he's made any time, it's only been from the start of his stint in the realm of tenths, not seconds, that I think he was hoping for at this moment in time, as we do start to approach as to the halfway point of this race. Plenty of battles raging on. First, second and third definitely close together in BLC 1. And you've got the battle for the podium in BLC 2 as Schumacher now has gotten ahead of Glen.
Yeah, that's what we saw before, as Robert Schumacher was, I think, led by. Glen didn't put up a huge fight as they came into this very chicane 1 lap ago. Was position change there for the bottom step of the podium actually in BLC 2, so don't count B-Sim Racing out just yet. They will be planning their comeback move to try and retake that podium position. Jonathan Poulet sits there around half a second off of Scott McFall, the Scotsman in second place. And still, it's been a grand stint so far from McFall. He's really done a good job of not only taking that second place on the pit stop itself, but actually keeping a hold of it as well. And through some relatively different circumstances. They are difficult in these. Differing, you could say, as well with the traffic, because no 2 laps of traffic are ever the same. Never indeed. And as you said earlier, they are slowly but surely over the, at least over the first half of this stint, they have closed a little bit of time in on Ricardo Ferreira. At least they haven't lost anything to the race leading Portuguese.
It's very intriguing indeed to see this gap chop and change, actually up in front of Ricardo Ferreira and Scott McFall. Sort of trading times here and there, but all the while Scott McFall's trying to close in on the race lead while having to worry about a very fast Lamborghini in his rearview mirrors. Jonathan Poulet, again, keeping that gap down in a couple of tenths range rather than, maybe half a second, which would be a little bit more comforting for Scott McFall. They go down the inside there of the Flemish Simsworks BLC 2 car, the 999 of Martin Deckens. That's currently in second place in BLC 2, but some 30 seconds back from class leaders Philip Verder for ART Sim Racing. Shame that BLC 2 hasn't had the close fighting at the front that I think we were hoping for if those first 30 minutes were anything to go by Haas, but that's just sometimes the way the racing can go.
Yeah, it is, and it's there's so much circumstance that plays in regards to just how a race unfolds. So and it hasn't been in any way disappointing, at least to my mind. We've seen some really good racing so far, and we continue to see it as well here. Now it's Hans Damians on the tail of Carlos Maestro, calling the shots there in the 677 machine at the moment, trying to carry it around the outside of the number 12 car, currently sitting at the heavy end of the Porsche Cup field, but that's GT Racing by Red and Car that I think started out quite well, but they've been 4 minutes in the pit lane.
Yeah, it's been a big shame to see the GT Racing team really out of the fight now in BLC 2. But, whenever there's one battle that starts to fade away, another one rages on, and we've been getting another one coming through. And that's in BLC 3, Hasse. Look at that, we're starting to see gaps come down now under a second between second and third, I believe.
That's actually really interesting. That's Tom van der Kibbenade, who's beginning to see that Traxxas by JWS Motorsports Aston Martin in his mirror, and it gets bigger and bigger, I'm afraid, for him. Of course, for Jerry Crispin, he sees the BMW getting bigger and bigger as well right in front of him, so that's going to be the best motivation you can have. He's on point as well at the moment. Really on the apexes, super dialed it seems. Jerry Crispin here on an absolute charge over this second stint so far. The drive has been... I wonder if they still sit on that fastest lap in their class, and they do indeed, I think at least by 0.03 of a second on the Simtech E team. Still sit on fastest lap, and that just says a bit about what kind of pace the Traxxas by JWS Motorsports Aston Martin here actually has on display for tonight. It's been down to poor luck. I think they're fighting back from it, but what a fight back it's been so far. Even though Tom van der Kibbenade and all the carnage competition drivers are hugely skilled in their own rights, I think they're gonna stand too much of a chance here if they... That was a cent and a half from
Beautiful.
Quite far back. Yeah, but Tom van der Kibbenade getting pushed slightly wide, I guess within the limits of what's acceptable, but I think he won't be too pleased with that whole situation. He'll feel hard done by there, I think, but that's racing sometimes as well. Through the chicane they go. The BMW though looks very planted in general, especially through the chicane and stuff. Though it doesn't look like it's really willing to turn as much as either the Porsche or the Aston Martin does in the faster corners, which you would understand as well, of course, with the longer wheelbase.
It's, I think with the BMW, as someone who drives these GT4 cars quite a lot, I'm really, really big fan of them. The BMW is a car that struggles a lot just to get the sort of the turning through the corners. It's a very understeery bit of kit, but out of the slower speed corners, putting the power down, there is no car that accelerates better than this BMW as well. On top end, it is a very quick car in a straight line. It just struggles a lot through the corners, and well, as we're seeing now, there's plenty of those here at Watkins Glen. A track something like Daytona is one that really does suit the BMW though. When you're coming through those two hairpins, the way it puts the power down is sublime, and then as well on the banking on the straight, it is such a quick car. But there aren't many circuits that really pay to the BMW's strengths here. Watkins Glen is certainly not one of them. It's a track that really does help out the Aston Martins, as we've seen them currently first and second at this moment in time. But that does not take away at all from the performance we're seeing from carnage competition in their class in BLC3 at the very least. Doing good as well to try and lock out the top step of the podium in BLC1 now. Gap up to 7.3 seconds again between himself and Scott McFall from Ricardo Ferreira. But further back in the BLC1 class, we do have Jaco Boschov, Ignium Motorsports Blaze, trying to keep Bram Bellemans in the Team Beta Brab 42 Lamborghini. And this could be a very close battle indeed. Just having a look though, last time around, Bram Bellemans was actually a little bit slower than Jaco Boschov, which I think tells us that Boschov might have got the move done last time around and is probably going to at least hope he can break away from the front end of the chasing Lamborghinis. Oh, big moment there. Big slide out of the corner there from Stijn van Nelen. Ignium Motorsport under a lot of pressure now from Simworld.be fast. And as they make their way through the final corner, it could be game on into turn one. Look at how close they are. Just a few tenths of a second, not even that. Just a tenth of a second now on board with Michael Holsters. Can he slide it up the inside, slot his way through? He's already up the inside, and I think, do you know what? He's got that move done very nicely. Not fought too hard there by Van Nelen. Indian Motorsports happy to concede 4th place for this moment in time, Hassan.
Yeah, and Michael Holster certainly didn't keep his gun in it, so to say. He got it out, fired a bullet, and it went straight on target. He's up into to 4th place indeed for SimWorld.be Fast. You can see the speed difference as well there through the chicane. Absolutely massive. I'm looking down over the pit times. It seems to me that everyone has taken their tire change all the way through the field, so which would be expected as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially in the GT4 class. I think they're ones that you don't double stint in at all because they do the tyres at the same time that the fuel goes in. Same with the TCRs, so they get away with it. Porsches, I think, do the fuel and then the tyres. However, those tyres are not going to be able to make it 2 stints no matter what you try and do in the Porsche Cup car. So for now, sorry, how's it going?
I'm just going to say most cars do the fuel and then the tires. That's the normal procedure, isn't it?
It's how it works, at least in the GT3s. But in GT4s, they do the tires at the same time as they do the fuel.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah. Because there's different rules as to whether you can work on the car while you're fueling or not.
Same with the TCRs because they're both running under iRacing's, I think, the Michelin Pilot Challenge rules.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because anything that runs under IMSA or what would be the iRacing equivalent to WEC, whatever it's been under many changing names over the times, but neither of those sets of regulations allow any form of work on the car while you're fueling, and that goes for repairs as well. Or is there really slow repairs?
It's very slow. You can only it does like minor repairs. It takes basically a second's worth of repair on the sort of what you get on the box on iRacing. It shows the amount of time to repair. But about every second of repair that's needed to be done is taken, I think, in around about 5 seconds. So I think it's a lot slower. I think it repairs at about 20% or even 10%, to be honest, at the normal speed it would do. And then, of course, when the tyres are done, when it's put down onto the ground, then the repairs start in earnest. And that's also usually enough to see the drivers out on track. Anyway, as long as it's like minor sort of scuffs and bangs here and there, that usually gets done without you needing to spend any further time stationary in the pits. This battle, though, it's still going on, Haas. They used to aren't calling it quits. However, look at that gap from Ferreira down to McFall. 5 seconds now, so something has really upset the rhythm of Arnage competition. And Scott McFall, he's on a bit of a charge now, already halfway through his first stint in the car and already making some good inroads towards his class leading rivals.
Yeah. And you can see Ricardo Ferreira again here being just ever so slightly held up by, that's the Flemish Aston Martin. And if you don't have the immediate aggression in traffic on a track like Watkins Glen, you just so easily gonna find yourself struggling. Sometimes it can be a wise decision to just hold off coming into a corner, just to make sure that you can exit the corner as quickly as you normally would. But definitely, Edward, that gap has come down considerably. It's now 4.8 seconds. I reckon that there's a sort of truce existing between Sim District and Valkyrie competition, and that they're not going to fight one another in an honest attempt to see if they can just get up there and try and Carnage competition in the lead a bit there in DLC 1.
They closed half a second on that last lap pass, so that's now 4.7 seconds. It was 4.5 as they came across the line. However, I think McFall has found himself in a little bit of traffic. But Ricardo Ferreira, getting closed down onto by the chasing pack. Could be in for a very exciting final hour here, Hasser, as all of these cars finally close up to each other yet again.
Indeed, we are 7 minutes past the halfway marker here at Watkins, Glen. And I could think of no better way to spend my Friday nights. Perhaps it would have been different had you asked me 8-10 years ago. I would have been a bit more of a party cat. But nowadays, at the old age of 31, what better way to spend my Friday nights, at least here, than with a perfect race here in the virtual Belcar series.
So you said, what, 8 years ago you would have turned this down to go partying? I think I'm about
oh, someone's down. That's the BMW. That's the 100 BMW. I think it's someone else's off as well. It's Van der Kimmenade. And you wonder just what happened there. Oh, it's got touched by the 12 car. Sent into the barriers, and they're riding it for long. Oh, Rouge is not exactly where they'll be going, but could be in that direction. Oh, and the car's absolutely broken. A push rod or whatever it is, Edward, that they might as well just tow it in immediately. Oh, that's gonna be dangerous for someone else, and he's driving the wrong way. What on earth? I don't know if that's Robin van Gogh who's gone off the way in the Lamborghini. Yes, it is.
Try and get out of the way, and then obviously to loop it around safely, because there isn't really anything he could have done to get through there. But this was where Robin obviously got involved. Tries to move up on the inside, and then the number 9 I think comes across him. Unfortunately, Robin van Gogh all the way on the inside for quite a long time. Would have been aware, I think, the number 9, or maybe the spotter wasn't calling out to him for whatever reason, and then you see him, he's faced the wrong way for quite a while, has to go the wrong way to then loop the car back around and face the right direction, but that is, well, not good. Not good at all for them, and I think actually they've got a black flag for driving the wrong way, and I think that might be them out of the race, Hassa, to be honest.
That could be it, I'm afraid, yeah. That was one of the strangest incidents I've seen in a while. An absolute heartbreak there for the 100 machine. Gonna take him completely out of contention. And that's opened up the podium now to Sim District and their Aston Martin. It's an Aston Martin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as well at the moment. Then Milan Phaeton 7th. Decipit Racing in another Aston Martin in 8th. And oh yeah, we've had the poor luck of the... Well, something has happened to the...
Scott McFall is way down the order.
What's happened to...
Is... Valkyrie competition. Actually, Valkyrie competition is still going on. So what happened to Scott McFall and Sim District Vibe eSports GT3?
He's had a massive accident.
A huge incident. Look at that. The car is battered and bruised. Not a single panel in the right. Oh, and it was... Oh dear, oh dear. It was a coming together with, I believe, was that the 912, the B Sim Racing DLC3 car? Yes, it was.
And the Valkyrie car is so lucky not to get collected there as well. We'll just try to get it from another angle.
Look, they just drive normally and he just turns into him. I don't think he's aware that the car is on his inside there. He should have got the call for 3 wide and just to carry on. I think he was more moving to the left-hand side to give Valkyrie competition some space, but you know, they were going for a move all the way around the outside off the circuit. And yeah, I'm echoing the words and thoughts of Olivia Bolton. That is absolutely unbelievable. It's heartbreaking because we were on for a great battle. They could have seen a potential for a race victory at the rate they were closing in on carnage competition at this stage of the race. It was, you know, battle stations all across the board in BLC 1 for the lead, but sadly, one moment is all it takes to see your race ended in the saddest of fashions. But that's part of the beauty of, of motorsport. We love it, and we sometimes hate it because of moments like that. The drama that has unfortunately seen the race end for Sim District by eSports GT3.
Yeah.
Olivier Bultink now actually back out on circuit here, Houses. So
that was the fast repair done there quickly. Yeah. Echt niet normaal, I think the Flemish would say, of such a situation. And it's always a heartbreak. I'll tell you a bit of an anecdote. I'll tell you a bit of a story from this very morning. I'm doing a 6-hour EES race this weekend. It's been a long while since I've done any team races. I have a good mate that I've done numerous races with in the past. We decided to give it a go here, so I decided, well, I'm gonna do one of the sprint races as a practice, and I was having a brilliant race, getting 3rd position from a start place of 4th in the LMP2 on Spa, that is. And 56 minutes into the race, I get, well, not really brake checked, but sort of, by an LMP2, another LMP2 ahead of me that I was lapping. He was slowing down because of some sketchy GT traffic ahead of him. Left me nothing to do but to slam on into the rear end of his car, promptly ending my race with suspension damage. 4 minutes from the end of the race, and that would have been a podium in my first official race in Lord knows how long. So I was, just to say, I was quite upset as well. So it's certainly something that I think every iRacer out there has to go through. I'm afraid from time to time. It doesn't make it any more fun. It's a gut-wrenching feeling there, isn't it?
It is. It's so almost soul-destroying, I think, is the word, because you put so much time and effort into these races in the background. People don't really appreciate how much effort goes into these events in the background for all of these teams putting up sessions, all getting together on weekends and even during the week, working together to refine the setup and refine the strategy, to try and find little bits of time in their own driving here and there to see what they can do. And then in one moment like that, all of that hard work, not just in the race but beforehand as well, can all come undone. But that can have an effect of lighting a fire in the drivers to try and come back through and come back stronger for the next round. As we see a driver that's already strong at this round, BLC3, Kuhn Klopman, fastest lap of the race. Again, for the Aston Martin, he is on a charge. It's been a wonderful drive for that Simtag E team. As we see another fastest lap, the track temperature must be falling down now as Jonathan Poulet up there on the times, 36 degrees, and now, oh, I wonder what we're going to see, Hasser, in terms of the tyre strategy. It could be a gamble for Valkyrie competition, but it might be a necessary gamble to try and leapfrog our competition in the pits on the tyres.
Certainly a possibility. Oh, and you see just half a second disappearing there for Ricardo Ferreira, I think, as he had to clear the TCR. That's now in between. That's Michael Holsters. He's been sort of gifted 3rd place there. The 912 gets a 30-second stop-and-go for avoidable contact. Well, that was, of course, the incident also involving the Sim District Vibe eSports GT3 Lamborghini. That's out there again now with Olivier Bultink behind the wheel. They did have to take their tow time, I think, and from that alone, that's caused them to be behind by whatever they're behind right now. But they took their fast repair, and I think the car is at least in good shape and able to continue. Interesting to see just if they'll be able to claw something back from it. They're back out in 10th place. They're half a minute down or so on the car ahead. they should be able to claw back some time there.
I'm just really excited to see this fight, you know. I mean, we've just seen a purple sector 3 from Ricardo Ferreira, so he himself is really pushing it now. He's feeling the pressure, even though Jonathan Poulet is not filling his rearview mirrors. He's still seeing the time come down, and that pressure is enough. Now here is number 9, the 912 again, this time into turn 1, and I think actually that's them calling it a day, perhaps.
At least they're getting called into the pits for immediate repairs due to some suspension problems, and there's a massive lockup, I'm afraid, for Jochen Lennartz. That touches the soft barrier as well. Just a slight bruise to the car, but we all know the 911 Cup car that at the wrong angle, it doesn't take much to sort of hurt the suspension of one of the Cup cars if you hit it at an unlucky angle. Jacob Boshoff and Bram Bellemans very much still going at it. These two cars have been at it for a long time now as well, Edward. So nice to see this battle is still raging on as well, even with the chaotic traffic here. Oh, just to underline what I'm saying, that's Lennartz. Went to go around the outside and breaking himself maybe ever so slightly. Jacob Boshoff.
I mean, it's been mad, hasn't it? All race has. There's always been something going on, which is why I love these virtual Belcar events. They're always so exciting. There's always something going on. We go from one battle to another now as Edward Knight, Ignium Motorsports Spark, trying to find a way through on Flemish Sim Sports Black up the road and make their way down through the chute and towards the toe of the boot. Looking to the inside. Is he going to go for a move? That'd be very late on the brakes if he's able to get it to stick, but it has sent that Flemish Sim Sport car wide and slow out of the corner. Oh. If he's able to make that move stick, it'll be amazing, but of course the Lamborghini's going to have it to say about things and maybe throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but no, Edward Knight, he's actually pulled off the move, you know, Hasso. Came from quite a ways back, you know, but onto the brakes he was committed. He showed his intent and forced Henrik de Grave to take the wider line and lose out on the position. But can Henrik de Grave fight back? That's the real question, because now coming through the next couple of corners, it's all about momentum here. Can we see the Flemish Sim Sports car put a challenge back on Ignium Motorsport, or has Edward Knight got it done? And do you know what? I think the Welshman is actually on it, you know. He's got a nice clean gap and he's looking to break away.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think in a situation like that, we saw De Grave just slide on the outside as they went too wide. Initially, Edward Knight faking a move up the inside, or sort of not forcing it, but just making a sort of non-move that turned into a move, because all of a sudden he found there was the space there on the inside. Of course, with the GT4s and the very little downforce they have on offer, it's very easy to just sort of slide the car past the apex and just sort of open up the inside of the turn for your competitor. And that is sort of what happened there. Edward Knight taking advantage of that move nicely. But we saw a bit of the slide there from De Grave, and as soon as you go sliding about, you tend to overheat, at least momentarily, the tires there. And it was the 540 car that we saw so competitive earlier, and I wonder what happened to them. In the end, they're now Eve Fredrickson for them.
And I'm just really excited by what could happen in these later stages of the race. You know, there seems to be some battles that could be brewing on the background, not the least the battle for the lead of BLC 1. And look at this. He's on a bit of a charge, you know. He's got Bram Bellemans, though, in behind. Actually, look at the pace of the Cup car, almost actually going up the inside of Jakob Boschov into the chicane, having to back out of it. And as he does so, the less downforce, the slower speed through the chicane does hold up Bram Bellemans, Satin Beta Rab, well, they're getting caught in a lot of traffic now. They can't seem to find a way through, and they've gone from being, you know, a few tenths back to now being 1.6 seconds shy of 10th place. Or actually, no, 11th place. It says 10th place for me because my so for some reason Franken is in BLC 3, which he isn't. I can assure you, is another fastest lap passer for Jonathan Poulet Valkyrie competition. They're looking very quick at this moment in time, really, really fast. Those tyres have got plenty of life in them. Maybe we'll see a bit of a strategy masterclass if they're able to double stint the tyres. Carnage can't. They might find themselves with a healthy advantage into the final stint. Yeah, fastest lap passer.
Yeah, it's light now, the car. They'll be light on fuel for the end of the stint, so if ever there's a time to do it, it's now. But being able to put in these sorts of laps in traffic is also just a special sort of skill. I'll throw in another, now while I'm at it with the anecdotes, I'll throw in another. Hess's Tales of LMP2. But this is not quite as sad as my first anecdote. This is from the Watkins Glen, the official 6 hours of Watkins Glen last year that we did. We actually had we ended up finishing second by 9 seconds. And that's after having been pushed off by the leading driver in turn 1 at the start of the race. After having had a few very close calls, and my teammate having had a spin that was almost unrecoverable at the very narrow, the final sector of the track, the very narrow part, right here actually, where the drivers pass through, as we see now. And yet we clawed on and we fought on and we drove like hell and finished second, 9 seconds down. It was a fantastic fighting spirit that was on the team that day. It was great to experience just what sim racing can do to you in that regard as well. But that was just to say, I think I sort of know where Jonathan Poulet is with the traffic at the moment. And just, that's the Anage no, that's not. That's the 27. I was to say Anage.
Oh my word. How close to the wall do you want to get, Jonathan Poulet? He's pushing the car to the outside limits while trying to fight his way through the traffic. But you know what? That's really worked in his favour, because I'm having a look at the gap. For some reason it's saying on the left hand side for me that it's 5.1 seconds, but on the timing software it seems to be a lot closer than it actually is showing. I think it's 2.7 seconds apparently. So we'll have a look and try and get to the bottom of it to figure out exactly what the gap is between first and second, but it looks to be coming down by a considerable amount now, Hasso. Find a more word. Door banging galore between Henrik de Grave and Edward Knight. Oh, that was very scary stuff. And Edward, sadly, after making that move, has got to find it all to do yet again. But this is Ricardo Ferreira, and under a lot of pressure from Jonathan Poulet. Is there a little bit of damage actually on the front of that Carnage competition car? I thought for a moment I saw a little bit on the front bumper. No, it all seems to be just about fine.
Could be. I don't know if that bumper, the front bonnet, gapping a little bit strangely on what is the left-hand side, or if it's just the design of the car making it look that way. There could be something slight. I don't think it's going to be enough to really cause trouble, but you know the tenths that they bleed here and there.
When you get to this top level that these drivers operate on, has to have been being so high on iron. And these two drivers, 7,000 and 6,000 I ratings respectively. As soon as you feel a little performance, it affects these top guys so much because they're used to the car being in perfect condition, pushing it to its absolute limits, and as soon as you lose that little bit of performance, they really do feel it. If you don't have the car at 100% effectiveness, it can hamper you when you are at this top level. So this is what we're going to see is Poulet. Look at how much he's swinging it through, carrying the momentum. He is really going for it now. He can see the race leader just up the road. He knows what's at stake, and he is absolutely going for it here just before his final pit stop of the race. Are we going to see him hand over to his teammate, or will he continue on till the end of the race? That is the real question. Is again Ricardo Ferreira losing out a little bit, having to go all the way around outside now of, I believe that to be Robert Schumacher for Berserk Racing. Yes, it was third place in BLC 2, now needing to be passed by the race leaders. Oh my, and now
team,
here we
maybe
go.
a team game going on here because they're not letting them through, are they?
I mean,
This is
they
the
don't
current
have,
fifth place, Carlos Maestro at the moment.
yeah, they don't have to let him through. Blue flags in this series and any series other than Formula One are purely advisory to let you know that there's a faster car coming. However, you are not allowed to block with a blue flag, so he's not really allowed to go defensive. And actually, you can see he's doing a very, very courteous thing, getting well out of the way, but also it does help out his teammates marginally because he didn't give a toe at all to our Irish competition, didn't help them out in any way, shape or form, and instead actually he's probably going to maybe give his teammates a little bit of help instead.
Yeah, that's probably true. Oh, Robert Schumacher has been off massively, I'm afraid here. Yeah, oh, whoa. But that's a slight touch only.
That was earlier on,
barrier.
actually.
Yeah,
that
that's true.
Just
That's
before we saw Ricardo Ferreira come through. They didn't lose a position, actually, on account of that. But they did lose a lot of time to P Sim Racing behind. Luc Lemol closing that gap down. And he might smell a podium in the offing here. It could be very close with the those two. What's going on with Alexander Rice?
I think Alexander Rice might have had some kind of connection issue, I'm afraid, because he's nowhere to be seen. So that smells bad luck to me on the connection side of things. And that is very, very unlucky in the end. Edward Knight, here's Dan Hendrik de Grave and Matthias Maas, and the tracks is by JWS Classic Cars. All close to one another in the battle for 4th place in BLC 3. It is true, a bit of damage to the Flemish car there at the front end of things. Seems to be hampering Hendrik de Grave a little bit. Edward Knight right now has a bit of cushioning, just about a second to go with. And if you can get
there's a response answer from Ricardo Ferreira, fastest lap of the race, but only 1,000th faster than Jonathan Boulay, who himself is trying to close the gap down now. These two, while they're not necessarily nose to tail, they are trading times like anybody's business. And now Jonathan Boulay, he needs to hope that his teammate doesn't hurt him at all here. He's going to have to go the long way around both his teammate and the BMW. But he does so nice and cleanly indeed. Irish competition getting well out of the way. We didn't want to see any dramas there. Obviously, Valkyrie competition closing in on Irish competition in BLC 1. And that gap, 1.3 seconds, well within the draft radius, is actually, I think, Ricardo Ferreira was maybe held up by, well, a very, very fast Yuri Crispier. Tracks this by JWS Motorsport, but not faster, of course, than a BLC 3 car.
Oh, the BLC 1 certainly with about 10 seconds of pace advantage on the BLC 3s around Watkins Glen. So I think, isn't that so? I'll see at the lap times here, 50, yeah, exactly 10 seconds. So that's at least for once, Edward, I'm right. Something I say. This is very interesting, though. Poulet has really been doing a fantastic job of closing the gap up to the Anage competition car
this is gonna
that's
be a really
coming up to the
fast lap.
run of pit stops.
No,
and
it's
that's just so that they come into the pits. They're going to cover one another, not risk a slow lap in traffic whatsoever. They're going to come in on one another, basically separated by about half a second here as they come into the pits. And of course, if one of them doesn't take tires, that's going to mean a massive advantage coming into the final hour. But also a pace advantage to whoever does gain the fresh rubber, as for obvious reasons. Let's see here. Of course, fuel is going to go in first. Driver changes. Yes, indeed, for both of them. Carlos Dieguez comes in for Anash, and then Oscar Pai in as well. So you have to wonder there, Dieguez, a new driver in. Is it going to be any sort of hampering factor, a disadvantage maybe for Anash, that Carlos Dieguez might just have to settle into the rhythm over the opening minutes of the stint? Or do you reckon he's so good that a driver of that level just gets immediately in the car and will be sort of on it from the first minute?
I think it's difficult. It's impossible to predict, to be honest, Hassa. It's just going to all come down to these two drivers, both of them taking tyres. I wondered if we might see drivers opt to take it to the end, but maybe the wears were just too much for them to even consider it. So you saw when both of them came up onto the tracks at pretty much identical times, and you could just see Belcar competition with the advantage, and they've leapfrogged carnage competition in the pits. They've come out throughout all of that. The hard work done has paid off for Belcar competition, and they now find themselves in the lead of the race for the first time tonight. This is wonderful stuff, Hassa. And Carlos Dieguez, he comes out in the worst possible spot behind cars, behind traffic that he needs to pass as soon as possible. If he loses out and Oscar Pai is able to get through, clear a path, he might lose out on the slipstream and lose out on a chance to stay close to the race lead. He's in behind the TCR car. It's gone absolutely horribly for carnage competition. Could this be the pivotal moment of the race that sees Belcar competition walk away with their first race victory of the season? Oh my word, Hassa, the drama is in full flow tonight.
Absolutely. So it's fantastic to see here SimWorld.be Rapid not taking tires on their pit stops. That means that they're out somewhat clear of Olivier Bolting, who might not be able. Oh, they've been in quite some. Oh, they were in on lap 63. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure they're going to be able to make it to the line. Same goes for Olivier Bolting, which means that the third place indeed could, at least virtually, still be with Jeroen Vatlin at the moment in the SimWorld.be fast car. We've got Babo Fallon in the pits right now. Let's see where he comes out compared to Håkon Grebstad. He's going to come through right about now. And Dieguez still not having been able to get past on Håkon Grebstad, and that gap to Oscar Pai is growing by the second, Edward, and it's 2.5 seconds now.
Yeah, it's really growing now. Oscar Pai really on it. He's using the comfort that he found in that first stint to great advantage, and is now trying to streak away from Belcar competition. He is in a tough spot in behind the Igni Motorsport car of Håkon Grebstad. Finds his way through up the inside of one car, but not the second. That was such a huge lunge, such a massive risk for carnage competition, and it sees them out of the fight for the lead. This was it from so far back. You can see the closing speed. He's so optimistic to think he can even get a move on the TCR from so far back. The TCR, trying to avoid contact, actually loses the rear end. But look at this, Carlos Dieguez, he goes through and just sees all of a sudden, as he's committing to the move, the TCR car. Where can the TCR car go? He can't vanish. He can't just, disappear from this plane of existence. And unfortunately, Carlos Dieguez, in his desperation to come through and keep the fight alive for the race victory, you can just see it there. I mean, the TCR car is trying to get out of the way, but there's only so much he can do. And unfortunately, trying to get out of the way, loses the rear end. But I wouldn't want to be a steward, but for me, that's just a racing incident. I think Carlos was just really, really brave, really committed, maybe too much so, but he had to do it to keep the race alive. But that's unfortunately killed the hopes for a race lead.
He didn't have to do it to keep the race alive. I think they have almost an hour. You in a situation like that, you have to be patient and play the long game and just wait for your opponents to suffer what fate has befallen you in traffic, and for the sort of the pendulum to swing the other way. What you can't do, however, is to become impatient, like we saw, and commit to a move that in the end is going to bring you nothing but an incident. And I'm afraid that's what happened to Carlos Dieguez here. Now,
that's still heartbreaking stuff.
Yeah,
really
that absolutely is. But yeah,
it was just. I think he felt that maybe the race was just slipping away from him. He had to try something, anything, to keep it alive. To, not allow Oscar Pai to run away with things. The traffic was obviously not in his favour, but if you look at it in the long picture, there's an hour to go in the race. It's an hour for Oscar Pye to find the traffic at a bad time, for the luck to swing in favour of Bernard's competition. It wasn't a move that needed to have been done, but, you know, it's when you're in the heat of the moment in a race, you think, oh, this is enough. If I do this, I close the gap down, I get within that sort of 1.5 seconds into the slipstream of the race leaders, and the fight is back on. It just wasn't to be, and now it's going to just be about managing the race, managing the pace for Oscar Pye. He can start to breathe a little bit easier now, and while the pressure isn't going to be on him fully, he will, of course, know that it's in his hands, and that can have its own effect on a driver, can't it, Hasse?
Yeah, it really can. It's that growing pressure that if you're a chasing driver, you're the one kind of dealing the pressure towards someone else. But some drivers react better to it than others. You could also say now with 13 seconds of an advantage, that's the biggest lead we've seen at any point in BLC1 in this race. So no one's ever been in a more comfortable position, so to say, than Oscar Pye is right now. So he can, to a certain extent at least, afford not to take any big risks in traffic. But it's also just, you just have to stay committed. You have to keep in your rhythm, and most of all, you have to be somewhat foreseeable in your actions. And that's a very nice way of doing it. Just making sure you exit the corner on the inside. You can see it's a difficult job having to overtake the Porsche Cup cars there. Slightly later on the brakes, of course, the BLC ones are able to be, and that's usually where we see the difference being made between the two classes. Further back here now, it's Bavo Fallen who's catching up, I think, to Håkan Krebstad. That is in the battle for 6th place. Actually, it's the other way around. It's Håkan Krebstad who got passed on Bavo Fallen not too long ago. And this is just how that looked. By the books. As it should be. Jordi Jansen's in the pits now for JWS Motorsports. And I do realize that and there's something with one of the cars being displayed in a wrong class. This is this team indeed, I think. We'll do our best to sort of get that fixed, so we can avoid the confusion that it serves out for everyone indeed. What's happening here now? Stope. Oh, Stope is coming into the pit. Nick Stope has had a problem. And that looks to be a major incident. That's heavy damage to the car, Edward. And
big moment.
Yeah, massive. But I'm not seeing anything really here. So
it's a moment that sees Olivier Boltink, and that's in District 5 eSports GT3 car. You know, it's back up into the podium places, Hasse. However, even though they're in the podium places, they do need to make one further pit stop. They came in on lap 56. Carlos Digas, Oscar Pye came in on lap 68. So they will need to make one more pit stop. It won't be a long pit stop, not in the grand scheme of things, but it might be enough that sees them lose out to cars behind. Actually, just trying to keep my eyes on the gap between Boltink and Jeroen Vatler. That's Sim District 5 eSports GT3 and Simworld BE Fast. I think it might be a gap that's actually, I don't think it's a gap that's increasing, but it's around about 20 or so seconds, which might be enough for them to be safe. It might not be. It's going to be close, I think, between Olivier Boltink and Vatler should this pace continue for them both. You see Steven Billerschneider still in the pits, taking tyres, but no fast repair coming through, so that's them, unfortunately, out of their fight for high positions in this race, and they'll need to start to settle for just coming through and finishing this race and scoring any number of points on the board. This is the battle now. Vatler 20 seconds back from Bulting. Bulting with some very quick times to his name. 44.35. Not the fastest lap of the race, but certainly one of the fastest. Is very good for Sim District 5 eSports GT3's hopes of this race, and could maybe see them secure P3. It might be close towards the end of the race, but they're doing a good enough job at the very least, even with the extra pit stop looming over their heads. And now, Hassa, we've got, a battle for on-track position, although it's one that is not going to be a tough fight, because Lucas Romano finds himself in the BLC1 class car, and Philippe Verbet finds himself in a BLC2 class car.
Yeah, and this is where it looks weird, because this sort of yeah, something's up here with the drivers and classes. At least Romano is in the right class as a driver, but it seems as a team they're somehow still in another class. We'll have to look at, I think, as was explained in chat as well, that there's been a bit of
They did some sign-up mistakes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what
I personally think that if you do make a mistake, you should be disqualified from the race, just so us commentators don't get confused. I think that would be a good deterrent, Hassa. What do you think?
Maybe a bit too much of a hard policy for my taste.
We need
but
to be firm with these drivers. They can't keep getting away with this.
Well, there's certain truth to it as well. Here's Jorrit Svinnen. That is Pierre-Yves Dessaudt in the Decipit Racing Team Aston Martin, who loses the position, and there behind him is a gentleman who's sort of in a hurry, but he keeps getting held up. Diego's very much hard up the inside there. Oh my word! I would not like to be the BMW in that situation, Edward. That was hot in the mouth stuff there. Jorrit Svinnen must have been expecting that the Lambo was going to wait. Of course, it wasn't. Problem is, it keeps going the wrong way for Carlos Dieguez. Those kind of sandy overtakes aren't going to keep your lap times towards an optimum either. So you are going to compromise something along the way here. 45 minutes left of racing.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
We are forgiven. We are always forgiven. We can do no wrong. We just we don't make mistakes. We make prophecies that immediately turn out to be false. I believe were the words of the late and great Murray Walker. So if you do disagree with us, you disagree with Murray, and then we'll both be fighting them.
Well, that is true to some extent. I'm gonna come clean at any time to say I do make my mistakes here and there, and I'd rather wash my hands now. So speak for yourself, Mr. May. You shall be muted on mistakes, and I should keep on rambling till the end of the world.
I often find myself muting myself by mistake anyway. I often find myself, if I have a bit of a cough on, I mute myself and then forget to unmute myself, a couple of minutes later. So
it's happened so many times that I think we have a few in the freezer already, Hendrik, in terms of cards we can play to say, yeah, we've been muted. We've a point or two was lost along the way on that account. And I asked Chaz about that, by the way, because him usually stuffing his face with something.
Hungry boy, that man.
He does have an appetite, doesn't he?
I mean, we have Chaz. You said something about putting stuff in the freezer. You've just reminded me of a topic of conversation that we had in the Dynamics event, which I'm not sure if the question was ever posed to you, Hassa, but chocolate in the fridge, yes or no? Do you put your chocolate in the fridge? Do you not? Do you have it in a cupboard?
That depends on... I guess it depends on several things. First, what kind of chocolate? And secondly, and much more importantly, what is the room temperature? Because if it's in the middle of the winter and you've got open windows and it's 0 degrees outside, well, that's fine. If it's 28, 30 degrees in the summer, I'd probably keep it in the fridge just to have some chocolate left at the end of the day, you know?
You see, I'm a firm fridge chocolate putter. I love chocolate in the fridge. It's nice and it's sort of hard and has a nice sort of snap to it, but then it melts nicer in your mouth. It's got that coldness and then it quickly melts and is very, very nice. So I'm a big chocolate in the fridge connoisseur. Can you tell, by the way, everyone watching, that there isn't any close on-track battles now that there's like rambling on about chocolate in fridges? There are well over second gaps across the board. The race is starting to quieten down a little bit. But of course, it won't stay quiet for long, will it, Hasse? There will always be something going on as we have a replay. We've got something going on. It's Stephen Delay Schneider. Yet again, this 114 Simwell B car can't catch a break. And I think actually that's them deciding to call it a night. The damage is too bad. They got some repairs done, but it's still not in a way that they're happy to drive. And I think that was them deciding to call it a night. And I think, Enric, we might have had the chocolate discussion before, but I think it was on a different thing. I thought I'd bring it up to Hasse because I don't think Hasse has had his time to voice his opinions, and I think everyone needs to know what his feelings are on chocolate in the fridge.
I'll give you a discussion on something else people sometimes put in the fridge that really gets me going because I think it doesn't belong there, and that is Nutella. And Nutella has no place ever going in any fridge anywhere ever. Ever. And whoever like, and I'll tell you the reason as well. It's very simple because Nutella is it's a spread. You're supposed to take a spoon or a knife or whatever and be able to spread it on some bread, you know, and take some Nutella out the fridge and it'll be unspreadable.
That's the one time I'll agree. That chocolate.
But Nutella is not chocolate, though. That's a very important. It's not even a chocolate-y thing. It's hazelnutty.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had Nutella. I just have chocolate spread. I don't have Nutella because I don't like nuts.
But it doesn't taste like nuts. I guess this direction.
So then, what does it taste like? Does it taste like chocolate?
Sort of, with slight hazelnutty.
So then it does taste like hazelnuts.
But a hazelnut taste. Who doesn't like hazelnuts? It tastes fantastic.
I don't like nuts in general. I'm just a weirdo. I'm a very fussy.
Have you ever tasted Nutella, Edward?
No, I just have normal chocolate
But
spread.
you know that there's usually hazelnuts in those too, right?
Well, I know that there's hazelnuts in Nutella, but not in the chocolate spread I get. There's no hazelnuts in what I have because I don't like them.
You get the even more childrenly version of Nutella.
It's a nice thing. We have Cadbury's chocolate spread, and it's lovely. It's wonderful. Although I'm more partial to not really have chocolate spread. I am a big enjoyer of marmalade. Marmalade.
Really marmalade, and you can get a number. And I know you English people are very particular about your marmalade. I know in certain of areas of France they are as well. We Danes are as well. You get a multitude of variants with all sorts of berries of the forest as well, and it can really. It's an amazing thing. That's great for breakfast as well. I myself has always been a fan of very children-y cereal products as well. I must admit, I have a soft spot for some of those. As I'm trying to shed some weight now. I'm trying to get back into shape actually. The cycling knee is trying to get back into existence. And also on the weight scales recently as well. It wasn't great. It wasn't great reading. It was a bit of a shocker. And now I'm doing a bit of an effort. I'm also having an off night tonight from that because hey, I'm saying, and it's Friday and it's nothing should be so strict that you don't enjoy yourself once in a while. That's actually true. I've heard about that, Hendrik, by the way. That Ferrero buys 75% of the entire hazelnut population, I was about to call it. Of the world's hazelnuts, I guess you would say.
That's a heck of a fact.
That's a brilliant fact, though. They hardly make anything that doesn't contain hazelnuts as well.
Isn't it also that the world's largest supplier of tyres isn't Pirelli or Michelin or Bridgestone or Continental, but it's Lego. Lego are the largest producers of tyres in the world.
By but by amount of tires or by the volume of rubber spent making those tires?
I don't know. I just know that.
I would tend to believe it would be the first rather than the second, because as you may know, I believe you've seen Lego before, Edward. I certainly have. Being a Dane, Lego being a Danish thing. You can hear I'm certainly my proudest corner here talking about Lego. This is really the pinnacle of Danishness. Anyway, you would have seen a Lego tire, and you would also know that it's very small. At least the smaller ones of them are really small, and even the bigger ones are still kind of small, so it doesn't take that much to produce a lot of tires in Lego size. Fun fact though, indeed, while we're at it here, we're closing in on the final 30 minutes of racing. Carlos Dieguez now behind, just to give you a bit of a recap on what's going on across the field, so we don't get carried away too much. We'll keep on with the lovely Friday chit-chat convo that's going on. It's very cozy indeed here, and we have been presented with something that, for once, I want to say, Edward, isn't a downright action every single second of the race here. But anyways, it is Oscar Pie and Valkyrie competition leading Carlos Dieguez for a Nash competition, and Olivier Bultink completing the podium there, for now at least. Let's see if he can hold on to that with that short pit stop they will have to take towards the end of the race. It's Jeroen Vatlet for SimWorld being fast in 4th at the moment, and Håkon Grepstad for Ignium, 5th place in BLC 1. In BLC 2 we have Matthias De Heine and ART Sim Racing leading in the 55 car ahead of Flemish in the 999, and then Bad Bolen, for Berserk Race for Berserk Racing. That came out perfectly, didn't it? Completing the podium for the time being. Benjamin De Pape there in 4th place for B-Sim Racing S, and Finn Fliegen 5th for Duct Tape Racing Yellow. Fabrice Cornelis is our race leader in BLC 3. He's been so for the entirety of the race so far, with Koen Klopman by his side. Cedric Wouters has done a super job of taking Traxxas by JWS Motorsports up into 2nd place. And at the moment it's Kim van Hooydonk in 4th for Sim District via eSports. Then 4th, Stefan Verhofte for Traxxas by JWS Classic Cars. And then Ben Hicks in 5th place for Ignium Motorsport Sparks. BLC 4 currently led by Ben Thanes of Flemish Sim Sports Red. Then David Lichetalier for AC Motorsports eSports AM. Nicolas Rubelar at the moment 3rd for an Irish competition, and then Kevin Soufreau for B Sim Racing by FRT in 4th indeed. And while we've gone through the cap there might be a little bit of stuff happening between Bad Bolen sitting in 3rd place. And remember when we had this battle last time, Edward? I mentioned specifically that we shouldn't count out the 222 machine of making their comeback towards the 13 Berserk Racing car. And look what's happening here now. Slowly but surely they seem to be appearing from behind. They went over a second quicker on the last lap. Boland, let's see, is that car in perfect condition? It actually seems to be in tip-top shape as well. But Benjamin De Pape is flying at the moment. He's really eating in that time on Bad Boland quickly, and will leave him with a very, very big task at hand of defending that 3rd position for just under 35 minutes.
He is game on now, Haas. So we've been waiting for battles to show themselves, to start to come to fruition. Injuring the part now right up behind Bob Boland. 0.7 of a second the margin as they make their way through the final couple of corners before they start their next lap. And actually, Benjamin is on a real charge here. He's setting personal bests through sector 3 and 4. So this could be a very nice lap time indeed. Probably a personal best coming through for the driver in 4th place. Just see the time coming through. No, actually a personal best surprisingly for that car. If it was personal, it would have shown up in green, but still nevertheless a quick time that sees him close the gap down even further now to Bob Boland, and dipping under half a second for the first time in this battle. Are we going to see a change in position, a change of drivers on the podium as Benjamin closes the gap down towards the bus stop? Not enough to make the move stick, but definitely enough to fill the rear view mirrors of that number 13. As look at that, Matthias de Haan, fastest lap in BLC2 yet again. That's 2 laps in a row that he's been going quicker than anybody else. Absolutely astonishing performance by ART Sim Racing up at the top of BLC2. But we'll keep our eyes on this, because look at this, Benjamin now up the inside towards the toe of the boot. Is he able to find a way through? No, he doesn't. Wonderfully covered off there by Bob Boland, who carries the momentum through the corner and out of it up the crest of the hill. They're still going to go side by side. The inside line afforded to Benjamin de Haan, but he can't find a way through Hasser. He has to concede yet again, and once more Bob Boland holds on to third place. But for how much longer with this traffic? Is that going to throw a spanner in the works?
Could could very well be, but ends up being blocked here at an opportune time, you might say, there for Bob Boland. Maybe realizing that he could squeeze in De Pape behind him, and therefore prevent him from getting the run. But I think this one is going to be difficult indeed here. De Pape is on the inside into turn 1. He's going to get it past the 222 up into third place here in BLC2. B-Sim Racing back onto the podium. It's been a while since they had that. Yeah, sorry.
Did not fight that at all, Hasser, and now he's going to try and fight back, I think. That's the reason why he's going to close down into the chicane.
Yeah, this is the classic move. It seems, and you don't have that long. It's a long straight indeed, but you travel so quickly by the time you get up on the end of the straight coming down towards the chicane that the time to actually make the move while the road is straight is sort of limited up there, and a lot of drivers actually get caught out by the at least perceived shortness of the actual straight bit of that. Of course, it is dead flat up through the S's, but it's very hard to go side by side up there, and also a great risk to present you and the team with. Benjamin de Pape, though, has put in some distance now, 0.7 of a second between himself and Bob Boland. I think it's going to be a tough job for Boland to get the better of the 222 right now.
Yeah, I think Benjamin de Pape is really showing a lot of pace here, and it's going to be so hard for Bob Boland to make inroads now. The clear air is there for the 222, and I mean, maybe we'll see it through. Maybe we'll see a fight back from Bob Boland, but it's going to be so tricky because just look through the corners every single time he goes through. He extends his advantage. And B-Sim Racing, they're really on a charge now in BLC2. They won't be able to make any further roads up on towards first or second, though, because the gaps at the top of BLC2 are pretty mammoth, to say the least. It's nearly 45 seconds between the Haan and Rise, and then Rise to this car at third place, 30 seconds. It's, well, impossible pretty much for them to make up that amount of time in 30 minutes that remain in this race. So I think it's third place is what they'll have to settle for. Bob Boland does close the gap down quite a lot on those last couple of straights, but again, not close enough to make a move into the bus stop. The traffic might play its part, but I think in terms of pure pace, it's going to be difficult to get past this 222.
Boland just getting caught in behind the TCR as well there. There could have been a chance of staying close, but the chance is, I'm afraid, seemingly gone, for now at least. You just gotta keep your head down and sort of keep going at it to see some opportunity might arise from out of nowhere all of a sudden. You know how traffic works. There could be some kind of sketchy situation arising, and it's a thing we haven't really talked about much in this race at all, but there's been so much going on until there wasn't, and we started talking about chocolate and Lego and Nutella and all kinds of good stuff. But one thing that's very much a thing that I'm actually seeing on the track right now as well. Why did that Lamborghini just swing out like that? Oh, okay, it's the race leading car, I think, coming through. But sometimes you get these congested zones on the track where we get basically every class of car in one shot like this. And once you clear it, you're sort of in a sweet zone of less traffic, at least for a while here, but very congested. Indeed it is for a lot of the drivers and leaders, indeed as well. In several classes here, as we have the number 2. Of course, the Simtech E-Team leading the BLC 3 class. And we saw the race leader there passing them as well. Valkyrie competition. With under half an hour left to go, Edward. 18 seconds of a lead for Oscar Pi. It looks good so far for Valkyrie competition, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, you look back there now at what I thought could have been a race-defining moment when Carlos Vegas made that mistake into the chicane. Just a little bit too aggressive, perhaps, for what was needed in that situation. But saw him get tagged by the TCR car, and we thought that was it. But looking at the pace of Oscar Pi, I don't think it would have mattered even if he got through that cleanly, because it's been so fast for Valkyrie competition at this stage of the race, hasn't it? They've been absolutely on it. I mean, look at their best times as well, actually. Are they going to get the fastest lap honours as well? How should we look at the times and quickly pull it out? Because for me, it's saying that both of them have done 44.02s.
Interesting indeed.
They've both been so evenly matched, but I think at this stage it's really in the favour of Valkyrie competition. Carnage, while they had the advantage at Spa, didn't quite have the same fortunes here at Watkins Glen, but it does mean that we have a real championship fight on our hands. A really exciting battle between Carnage and Valkyrie. Let's not discount Sim District 5 eSports either. They were in that fight for quite a while. They were ahead actually of Valkyrie competition until the contact with the BLC 3 car through the second to last corner just, about an hour or so ago. That saw them really out of the race, out of the running. They fought back brilliantly to get a P3, and you have to wonder what could have happened if not for that incident, because Valkyrie competition leapfrogged Carnage in the pits, but the Sim District in the mix as well. They might have been able to have got the jump on both of them. Who knows though, who knows? Because you know what they say, if ifs and buts were sweets and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, indeed. But not all is going to have a Merry Christmas tonight, are they, Edward? It's gonna be a heartbreak for a few after a race that has been quite attritional. I think we were expecting at least a certain rate of attrition, and it's proven out to be the case, indeed. The clouds have indeed also kept their cover rolling in over the track, and I would expect the track 10. We're just going to have a check there. That's down to 34 degrees as the 9 car has a big moment in trying to pass Nuno Henriquez. Gets past, but only just safely. Could have been a dangerous moment as well here. One of the closest battles on track at the moment will be Babo Fallen, followed by Kenny Berol and the 677 Belcar eSports Rookies machine. A bit of better side of 2.5 seconds here. Into the pits comes Olivier Boltink for that pit stop that we mentioned earlier. We knew they were going to have to take this one at some point. The question is the pit time going to be within the 33 seconds or so that they have down to Jeroen Vatlet in the SimWorld.be fast? And also, If so, they get out behind. Will that be able to stay out in front there? A bit of damage to the front end of that car. That was a quick stop, if ever I've seen one. Olivier Boulting, pit lane time of 29 seconds. Do you reckon they weren't even stopped there? He's had a moment. I think that was a drive-through on incident, because look at this here. Olivier Boulting had this situation first of all. He tried to go for the dive. Oh, he has a contact. And a loss of control. And an off track on top of that. I don't know if it's going to count all of those as incident points, but that's
I think it just counts the highest, so I think that'll be just the 4x, but
looks to have been a drive-through for them, which in turn is going to make it very, very difficult to stay clear of Jeroen Vatlet and SimWorld.be fast for these last 22 minutes of racing here, because they will still, by all probability, need to come in for a pit stop. I mean, I don't know how much fuel you could possibly save, but they will have done 11 to 12 laps more than, well, everybody else, basically, which is certainly not within the realms of possibility here. They will need an extra pit stop before the end of affairs. And judging by lap times, that pit stop might be coming up quite soon here, and I actually expect it to do so, Edward.
yeah, it probably will do, actually. I think it's going to be tough for Olivier Boulting and Sim District 5 eSports GT3 to stay in third place, but we know that they have the ability in terms of their, their one-lap pace and their ability to navigate the traffic. It was just, it's not been their night, sadly. Sometimes you have days where things just don't go right for you, and that's sadly the case for Sim District. We hope to have at least one race this season where all three of these top runners, Rally competition, Carnage competition, and Sim District 5 eSports GT3 all have a good night, and they're all fighting up at the front, because when they are, it's absolutely wonderful. They're so closely matched. Any one of these teams could really go away and take the BLC 1 top honours in this championship. And, well, what a championship we have in store. So we're going to have, if the next 20 minutes go by smoothly for Valkyrie competition, 2 separate race winners in 2 separate rounds. We thought after the dominant performance of Spa that maybe our March competition would try and walk away with it to have an easy time, perhaps, of repeating what they did last year and winning the championship, but nothing's ever easy in racing, real or virtual, is it?
No, certainly isn't. And I think, given the incident that they had there, comes the pit stop here from Olivier Boulting. Surely he will stay in the car on Ash competition with the incident they had. Will probably be happy to still be able to stay in second place. They will be feeling hard done by, especially by the traffic. They don't seem to have really been in any luck, and they have been in a flow of just getting continually hampered while everybody else was sort of in the luck to be able to negotiate the traffic in a quicker fashion. And sometimes it's just a feeling that you're left with out there, that the timing that you're dealt continually and in the grand scheme of things is just not really swinging in your direction, so to say, and that's hard to work with in the end. Bravo Fallen. He's got Kenny Bywell on his tail, but he's also doing a good job of staying in front for now, at least. Just under 20 minutes left, and while it doesn't necessarily seem like a long time, Edward, when thinking of the overall length time, of the overall length distance of 3 hours here, but 20 minutes, if it comes down to keeping someone behind you who maybe has that little bit extra pace, it's a long time indeed, isn't it?
Yeah, Bavo Fallon. Actually, I think it's a new team for Bavo Fallon, because I remember in past times I've commentated on him, he was racing under Decimo.be in the Dynamics Endurance series. So New team for Babo Fallon. He seems to be settling nice and comfortably inside this Sim Formula Europe Audi, up into 6th place, the highest placed of all of the Audi R8 GT3 cars in this race. Seems the Lamborghini is favoured by a lot of the drivers here, and well, for good reason, because it does look very rapid here tonight. Wow, Fallon doing a wonderful job though, isn't he, in his Audi machine, trying to defend from Kenny and behind Belcar eSports rookies. They've had, well, a tumultuous race, I think it's fair to say. They've been up, they've been down, they've been up, they've been down again, and now they're trying to find their way back up once more. They're on Babo Fallon.
Edward, I think this V10 must be one of the last ones that are really running in modern day motorsports still, and what a great sounding machine it is. Of course, the same beating heart that sits in the belly of both the Audi R8 and the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 machines. And actually, one day I'll have to take a read up on just what is the same on the two cars and what is not, to really get into the depth and detail of the two machines. I know they're similar. I know a lot of the tech between the two cars are the same, but I also think there are a few more or less subtle differences that are, of course.
But they're very release. I know the exhausts are different, because when you go onto the gearbox cams, you can just hear a very noticeable difference between the two V10s. It's a lot more of a sort of a higher pitched, almost sort of a whinier sound from the R8, where it's a bit more guttural, and you hear a lot more of a pop and a bang from the Huracan, especially on the downshifts as well. You could hear a lot more of a sort of I guess a more mechanical, aggressive sound. That Italian flair, I think, comes through ahead of the German precision that you get with the Audi.
Another hurdle to pass in the form of traffic for the two. Slight extension. I'm not really sure you even pick up an off-track out there, but yet again, if you didn't, why wouldn't everybody take it out there more or less?
Yeah, Boltink's just done his final stop of the race as well and dropped in behind Jerome Vatlet. So that is, it's going to be a job, I think, for Sim District by eSports GT3 to make up that time. It's well over 18 seconds, and with 15 minutes remaining in this race, it's a real mountain to climb for Olivier Boltink, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to muster up to the challenge, but you never know. There could be some late surprises in store in this race just yet. Van Anton chiming in for what he thinks the differences between the two cars. One of them is pretty, the other is an Audi. And to be fair, I don't know. I like the look of the Audi R8, but the Huracan just looks so much more aggressive, doesn't it? It's such a beautiful big kit.
And there's a tradition of wedge-shaped Lamborghinis that certainly gives a bit of, if not really racing pedigree to the Huracan, then at least design-wise, a lot of pedigree to that wedge shape indeed. And it is what a lot of us really come to sort of associate with a GT race car in the end. Of course, if it's not a Porsche 911, because that, I think, to many people at least, is still the definitive GT race car of all times, basically. There's the 32 getting past double time there. Oh, a little bit of touch onto the grass there from Babo Fallon, and that might open him up to attack here from Kenny Bayrol. He has to go past on the Vibe BLC3 machine. Looks to me as the Audi has the top line speed of these two machines, but the 677 Lambo to have a bit of an advantage, especially through some of the higher speed corners, but it's going to be too far back this time as well. At least that would be my call here. What do you think, Edward?
I have no idea, if I'm going to be brutally honest. I have no idea.
Well, he was going to be too far back for a lunge into the chicane, as we could obviously see from the pictures on screen. Yeah. He's pushing on here, coming in towards the final 10 minutes. This is becoming a doable thing for Bavo Fallen. The closer we get to the line, the bigger his motivation is going to be, although he gets that Lambo up very, very close now.
Very close, but not close enough to find a way through on the inside. I thought we were going to see a move. He was really, really close to sling one up the inside. Thought better of it, which is showing a lot of restraint, is Kenny at this moment in time. Doesn't want to throw away. That's some good points with one sort of, a silly incident. I think power fall on. We've seen how good he is behind the wheel of a Porsche Haas there in the Dynamics Endurance Series, but now in the virtual Belcar, he's going to be so committed, isn't he, to try and make his Audi as wide as possible to keep at bay the charging bull. Right, his rear view mirrors. Are we going to see a move in towards the first corner? Here we go, side by side. For sixth place, Bauer Fallon concedes position, instead looks to try and get a cutback and switchback manoeuvre. A little bit squirrely on the exit for Kenny. And now Babon, he will try and follow on in behind as he makes his way up through the S's. But is the Porsche up ahead going to be the spoiler in the pack? Are they going to be able to pass him before the braking zone for the chicane? They're approaching him at a fast rate of not fast enough, unfortunately, for Bauer Fulham as well to make a move to try and gain something. And look at the speed taken through by Kenny, Valkyrie, eSports rookie. Absolutely lightning fast through the chicane. The car seems so well tuned for that little bit of track, and it's worked in his favour. He's been able to clear the back marker traffic well in advance of the next corner, and actually has now been able to extend a bit of an advantage, a bit of a gap starting to form, and I think he's going to start to streak away from that follow now.
Yeah, definitely so. You would expect it, wouldn't you? Finally hadn't gotten in front. It seemed like the Lamborghini just so much more composed. Over the curbs of the chicane there, it could really efficiently straight line it in a way that Bavo Fun did not seem comfortable with doing in his Audi. And that alone sort of seemed like it made the difference. Now Fallon just a little bit too far back to really be able to do anything about Kenny Bauer up ahead there. 1.3, 1.4 seconds, might be down to the tires, might be down to different things there. Olivier Bolting's got 16 seconds to close, or so it would seem, there or thereabouts, on your own Batlet. And in 10 minutes, he hasn't really done a grand impression so far on this stint, coming towards the line after his splash and dash. So barring any poor luck there for Jeroen Batlet, could look like he could be on for a podium here today, which would be a great result as well for SimWorld.be Fast.
Really, really good for Jeroen Batlet. I mean, SimWorld Be Fast, they've been involved in a fair share of, moments this race. So many cars have. I don't think it's ever been a, moment-free race for a lot of these drivers. If they weren't involved in the opening lap incident, then there were probably things later on in the race that could have had their way of defining their evening. But for now, SimWorld not Be Fast, they're going to be really, really pleased with this result. Getting a podium in this high-level championship is going to be a real achievement. But across the board, there are some really good stories. Benjamin Depart, B Sim Racing in BLC 2. They're going to be really pleased with their podium as well. And of course, down through the order, I mean, you've got the raft of Aston Martins, don't we, Astor, in BLC 3, with just the two lone BMWs and a few Porsches that really have suffered, I think, in this race, haven't they, Ast? So you just look at the cars that have retired, and it's, well, a whole raft of Caymans.
Yeah, it's true. It's certainly it's changed as well, hasn't it? From indeed being that basically a Cayman only field in the GT4s to being a very diverse field of cars as well, and I think it's one of those classes where it's the more the merrier, and you just love to see the variation out there on track and in the races as well, and especially in the GT classes where you also get the greater variations on engines and different sort of displacements and cylinder counts and so on. It sort of keeps things alive, and it's nice to, of course, with modern F1 and stuff, you'll be able to hear as well that that's the Ferraris. Oh, my word, 1:43.915. That's the fastest lap of the race so far, set by Oscar Pai. Absolutely smashing everything else that's been said so far in the race. With 6 minutes to go, they're going for every point out there as well. Absolutely sending it still.
Don't forget as well, at the midway point of this race, they were, well, about 7 seconds back from what was at the time the race leading Carnage competition car. But they've turned it around brilliantly. They've really done a great job in that second stint to close the gap down, and then the handover to Oscar Pai for the final stint has been, well, a bit of a masterstroke. They've really got the edge in the pits. They leapfrogged Carlos Diguez and Irish competition to great effect. It has to be said, that was a race-defining moment, and then obviously the race just kind of unraveled, unfortunately for Irish competition. But Valkyrie, they kept their heads down, and as we approach the final 5 minutes of racing here in what's been a thrilling 3 hours of Watkins Glen here in the virtual Belcar, cool. It's going to be a really, really sweet race for Valkyrie competition. After the disappointment they had at Spa with, obviously, I think they had a big incident, didn't they, with, was it duct tape racing at the top of Radion, Norwegian Radion, and then, of course, with the steward's penalty that came their way, saw them drop pretty far back out of the fight for the win. To have this bounce back, well, it's what they would have been hoping for, but maybe not expecting. They knew it would have been a fight between themselves and Carnage, but cool. What a way to come back.
Yeah, it's been it'll be great for their morale as well, and certainly an equalizer of sorts as well for them here, at least a way to keep themselves in the battle, and certainly showing what we talked about at the beginning of the race as well, Edward, is that an art competition, even though they might have a lot of followers of the series, might have thought that who's going to be able to take it to an Ash competition as strong as they are, but it's just new evidence that they aren't just infallible there at the top, and that we will be in for a battle as well. I think a season one long, hopefully, kind of rides to hope. We'll see. Interestingly, Bolting now just 11 seconds down, but I think he will run out of time, if only just by a few minutes in the end, from catching Jeroen Vatlet. And Jeroen has been, I think, fighting with the car over the last few laps. Really can see the damage. It's a stricken machine that runs around here for the last few minutes. 3 minutes left to go, Edward, which I think It's going to be about 2 more laps. Another quickest lap here from Oscar Paya, 1:43.889. So you can really see just how the track is at the quickest it's been for the entirety of the race, combined with the fact that, of course, all of the cars will be low on fuel there. That was a very close moment as well for Oscar Paya. Whoa! And a flash of the lights there. That could have all ended in tears. Just minutes from the checkered flag there. Wow.
Oh. Wow, indeed, Hassa. Just wow. Checkered flag is not far at all. And oh. That's all I can say, isn't it? Just go.
Yeah, that was probably a lot closer than anyone would have wanted it to be. Luckily for Oscar Paya and for the Valkyrie competition team, remains but a scare, and they live to, well, hopefully see the checkered flag. Now we're into the final 2 minutes of racing here. Vatlet has lost 3 seconds to Olivier Boltink. It's 8 seconds now. It was 11. It's actually getting closer to 4 seconds as I'm talking. You wonder, you just have to wonder. That looks to be going... Yeah. Something is that they're saving... They're really trying to save fuel as well. Yeah, look at that. I don't think... Oh, that might be more interesting than I think. I think, you know, Vatlet would like it to be... Oh, and he's trying to save the refs. Might have it. Wondering, are they carrying some sort of engine damage as well? It seems they're certainly nursing a stricken machine, and Olivier Boltink is approaching fast. And what was 8 seconds just a moment ago is now 5.5. And you just have to wonder, is that gonna be... Oh, that's 2 teammates, but he gets out of the way there.
Just
in the Aston.
Just about, indeed.
Where is the race leader, though? Because if Valkyrie competition aren't going to come across the line anytime soon, no, they're not. Okay, so what needs to happen is, of course, well, Olivier Boltink can't afford to be lapped. They need to basically keep it going because they'll have one further lap. They won't come up to the line, see the checkered flag. They'll only see the white flag.
Yeah.
And maybe this extra lap, is that going to be a 1 lap too many for SimWorld.be fast? Or have they factored it in? They've been saving fuel like mad. That time has been, plummeting that gap. 4.7 seconds now. I mean, it'll take an absolutely Herculean effort from Olivier Boltink to take that time away. He's looking up the inside desperately to try and pass Reduct Tape Racing 992 Porsche now to sling his way around the outside, losing a decent amount of time there as well. 5/10 lost just through those 2 corners alone. So now, here we go, 5 seconds, 1 lap. Jerome Vatlet needs to hold on, but the race victory goes the way of Valkyrie competition. What a performance, what a drive. The strategy worked beautifully. They kept carnage competition, the pressure on, and then through the final pit stop, it all just worked out beautifully for them. What an amazing drive from Valkyrie competition. Their commiserations, of course, to carnage with the incident they suffered at the beginning of their final stop, though, Hassa.
Yeah, indeed, winners as well in BLC 3 Simtag E team with Fabrice Cornelis and Koen Klopman. They've tried winning before, and they do it again here at Watkins Glen. What a strong race it's been for them. Ben Thanes is going to lead home Flemish Sim Sports Red to a victory as well in BLC 4. And Matthias De Heine, who's right behind him at the moment, is going to take the win as well in BLC 2. And now we're going to see your own Vatlet. 3.7 seconds. He's now giving it a bit more go. This is that battle for 3rd place. But I think he's about timed it right with the fuel. And whatever traffic came at an opportune time. You have to wonder, had it not been for that, he might have been able to do it. Now, of course, you don't bet that has to make it all the way to the line as well. But you just have to expect them to have made the calculations and to have done a great job of doing the necessary fuel saving as well here at the end of the race. And it'll crown a nice race. Indeed, a very good race for SimWorld.be. Fast, despite whatever damage they've been carrying, they come home and take a third place podium spot there in BLC1. Edward, second round of the season here at Watkins Glen is over by now, but what a great race, at least from my humble opinion. It's been a great one indeed to have watched. What is your sort of ending notes?
Oh, yeah, there was action start to finish, wasn't there? I mean, my heart rate's still going after, the excitement that we saw this evening. It was, well, a real race to save. We can just see for some reason, the qualifying results up on our screens.
Get that fixed immediately.
We'll try and get that sorted out.
There we go.
BLC4 race results. Let's take you through the end result, which was Flemish Simsports winning by a comfortable margin, 2 laps over AC Motorsport eSports AM. Carnage competition there in third place, where B Sim Racing by FRT finishing 3 laps down. Then Hasse, you can do us the honours and talk us through BLC3.
Indeed, SimTech E-Team in the number 2 car wins it ahead of Traxxas by JWS Motorsports. Mind you, they didn't have the opportunity to qualify. They came from the far end of the grid to finish second in the end. Sim District Vibe Esports get third and the final podium spot in BLC3 ahead of Traxxas by JWS Classic Cars. Ignium Motorsports Spark, Flemish Sim Sports Black, they're in 6th place ahead of QSR Racing Esports 2. Decipit Racing Team gets 8th ahead of carnage competition in the 100 machine. And then Sim District Vibe Esports Porsche gets 10th. B Sim Racing G gets 11th ahead of Art Sim Racing 2. And P&V Esports Racing Team in the, I guess, unlucky 13th position. With that said, it's time for more Edward and the results from BLC2.
Yeah, and what a race we saw in BLC2. Art Sim Racing ending out the victors by 1 lap to Flemish Sim Sports Yellow by Viraco. Then BE Sim Racing, #S, finishing on the podium. Wonderful result for them. They're going to be very, very pleased with that result, I'm sure. Berserk Racing there in 4th place ahead of Duct Tape Racing Yellow and then Duct Tape Racing Red. For some reason, there's a big thing over the front of my screen, so I can't quite see. There we go. Dynamics Racing Simulators there in 7th position of Team Alpha Rab Higher Time. And sadly, GTE Racing by Red Ant 44 laps down. They were really in the charge for the race lead at one stage, but it just sadly was not to be. And Hasse took us through what a thrilling race and the thrilling results of BLC1.
Thank you very much, Edward. It's a win, as we've seen, for Valkyrie competition and the 77 car ahead of carnage competition, even though they did suffer a bit of bad luck themselves. Second place is all it could be for the 18 car today. SimWorld.be Fast gets third ahead of Sim District Vibe Esports GT3, even though they did come with a very strong comeback towards the final moments of the race as well. Ignium Motorsports gets 5th in the 26 car ahead of Valkyrie Esports Rookies. Then Team Formula Europe and Team Beta Brab in 8th place, followed by Ignium Motorsports Blaze and JWS Motorsports in 10th place. 11th was RP Motorsports by Q Team, then Flemish Sim Sports White, SimSports.be Rapid, followed by Sim District Vibe Esport GT3NL in 14th. PSR by RPM 15th ahead of Mac Challenge by DB1 and QSR Racing Esports 85 laps down there. An early race ender for them tonight. And with the results out of the way, Edward, we're coming towards that part of the stream where we get to drag a few drivers into the booth and ask them questions about the race.
Yeah, the post-race interviews, or as some drivers call it, the post-race interrogations from us in the comments box. There are several drivers all lining up. And I mean, we have to, of course, speak to our BLC1 class race winners. Valkyrie competition. Can see Oscar Payan, Jonathan Poulet in the waiting room, so we can't bring them in. We don't have permissions for some reason to drag the drivers up for some reason. I'm not sure if you can do that, Hassa. If not, we'll. There we go. We have one. There's the other. Both of them in with us now. Jonathan Poulet, Oscar 5. We'll start with you, Oscar. I mean, how did it feel for you when you just came across the line right at the end and saw finally the race victory coming your way?
Very happy because after the first stint we were quite far from the leaders, and Jonathan did an incredible comeback. So it was when I saw that they lost a lot of time. It was a good feeling.
Absolutely. It was really exciting for us in the comments box, especially coming on to you, Jonathan, to see all the hard work you did in your in the middle stint there really pay off. You managed to somehow leapfrog carnage competition in the pits. That must have been a real payoff for you and all the hard work you were putting in there.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting to catch them at all, to be honest. At the beginning of of my stint, I was behind Scott, and I was planning more on saving fuel and see how I can manage the traffic compared to him, and maybe try to get for P2. And then we were catching carnage through the stint, so at the end, I said, "Yeah, I'm going to pass Scott and push a bit to try to catch as much as possible." Didn't expect to pit right behind them, to be honest. And then coming out of the pit in front of them, just said, "Oscar, that's a sprint race. You can do it. Just manage the race, the tire, and go to the end, and we will see what happened." And 2 laps later, the harness got touched by a TCR into the bus stop and lost a lot of time. So I said, "Oscar, now you need to chill and bring back the car. That's it. No need to push."
Question for the both of you, though. I'm going to start with you, Oscar. How was the pressure that race when it was so close up in front for a large portion of the race? Just how were your nerves throughout the evening?
I was a bit angry after my first stint because I didn't have a lot of chance in the traffic, and so we were quite far. But then when we came out of the pit in front of them, I knew that it was now just a race, like a sprint race, and that's what I prefer. So I was more confident after be in the lead.
Yeah, for me, the last hour wasn't that me, but I mean, we were in the lead from the beginning. I was just watching him. Each time he was passing a GT4 or a TCR, I was, please go more on the left, but more far from the lap car, and no off track, just bring home, don't take risk. And then he started doing fastest lap. I say, "Oh, come on, you don't need that." No.
I've known drivers like that. Don't worry, you're not alone, Jonathan. I've had many a time where I need to tell drivers to slow down rather than go faster because it does do a number on your heart. But
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations,
Thank you
to
very
the pair of
much.
you. It was a wonderful drive, and you know what? Championship's definitely on for you, isn't it? Going into the next round, it's going to be wide open between pretty much you, Arnage, and Sim District, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So we will see next race if maybe Sim District can win it and swap around. So we are all 3 of us tied. So it could be fun for the rest of the championship. So let's see.
Yeah, it should be really exciting. Anyway, we'll wish you all the very best for the next race. Before we say goodbye to the pair of you, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or thank for the evening tonight?
Just thanks the whole team for what they help us doing, helping us with setup, with registration for this championship, host it for us to train, and all the management they bring us to help us do those kind of results.
And also thanks to the virtual Belcar for the whole organization of the championship and all the hosted.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you to the pair of you. Best of luck next time out. We'll hope to see you up at the top yet again. Take care.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
And with that, Hasso, we've just interviewed Valkyrie competition, and because I did 2 at once, you know what? I'll be kind and I'll let you do the next 2 interviews, interview the next 2 drivers. You're in the booth now, though, with Ben Thines for Flemish Sim Sports Red in the TCR class.
Yes, indeed. It's not Thomas Layson, but it is indeed Ben Thanes, the teammate of the Flemish Sim Sports Red by Viraco class winners, the 69 machines. Nice, you have to say. A nice race, a nice drive, and a nice win to cap off what was, after lap 1, it seems a relatively relaxed race on your part.
Yeah, it was rather relaxed. We got a bit lucky, or we dodged some bullets in the first round. And yeah, fortunately for us, the guys from Arnage came worse out of it. So we took a nice gap there, and we managed to keep it and extend it. Thomas also drove a very nice stint. And yeah, our race pace overall was really good. So yeah, it was yeah, not an easy victory, but yeah, not very stressful, this one.
And your team has fielded an Audi TCR for a long time as well. Now, after 2 races in the new Hyundai, how does that compare to the old TCR machine?
Yeah, I think the Hyundai is a really easily drivable machine. It handles the curves very well, very predictable. So it's easier to get into it than with the Audi. The Audi requires a bit a specific driving style, and I think the Hyundai is yeah, a bit easier to handle.
And after a win here at Watkins, Glen, do you reckon it'll be on for the championship from here on? Even though you had some bad luck at the first round in Spa.
Yeah, Spa was dreadful because my pedals broke down. But yeah, onwards from now, I won't be driving myself because I've got some offline real life racing to do. So I will only be back for the 24 hours of Zolder, and Keanu Bourguignon will take my place. But he also has a really good speed, so I think we're on for a great battle with the Arnage guys. So should be nice.
Well, thanks for taking the time to chat with us, Ben, and of course, congratulations for the win. Before we just say "Fail success" and let you go off to celebrate, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Yeah, big thanks to my teammate Thomas. He showed great pace today, and of course the team and the team sponsor Viraco. Yeah, without those guys, we wouldn't have the equipment we have at this moment. So yeah, shout out to them.
Well, where credit where it's due, indeed. Again, congratulations, Ben, and hope to get the chance to speak to you again at the 24 hours of Solder. Then.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Bye.
So that was Ben Thanes, our class winner in BLC4, and we've got some more class winners to be dragging in here. It's ART Sim Racing and the winning team in BLC2. We've got Philippe Fabert and Matthias de Heine. Welcome, gentlemen, to the commentary booth, and congratulations on a brilliant win indeed. A beautiful race and hard fought as well in the early parts there. You had a really, really good duel with, if I recall correctly, what I think was the number 12 car there.
Yeah, that was for Matthias. So Matthias will take the lead in this, I think.
Yeah, we had a close fight in the beginning of the race. I wasn't very sure if I had the pace to overtake, but after a while I decided to try, and we managed to keep in front of them for the rest of the race. So yeah, went pretty well.
And a question for the both of you. At a race like this, where traffic is really, seemingly at least, a big challenge for everyone involved, how did you come about and come about safely as well for all 3 hours?
Yeah, sometimes you really have to look what's going on in front and behind of you, and it's just letting the car pass. That's it. So yeah, we were luckily on P1 on 30 seconds before I in front of Flemish. So we had a nice gap for that. So we could drive the race really safely towards the end actually.
Well,
Yeah,
and oh, sorry, go on, dude.
in the end, it's about having respect for faster and slower cars, and sometimes you lose, but sometimes you win as well in traffic.
Well, such truth. Traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. Congratulations again from us here. It's a beautiful win for ART Sim Racing and a nice way to scrape in a good deal of points for the championship as well. And before, as per tradition, of course, before we let you go off and celebrate, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
The whole team that is behind our sim racing team. We are just started again since last year in January, and we've seen some great guys come over our team and race some leagues. So I want to thank the whole team in this way.
Beautiful stuff indeed. Again, congratulations. Thanks for taking the time, both of you, to have a bit of a post-race chat. And we do hope to have the chance to see you again here in the commentary booth after one of the next races.
Okay,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
So that concludes the interview section as well, Edward. And sadly, I feel like even it's going to be the concluding part of tonight's broadcast as well. And after a brilliant race, I guess it's always time to say goodbye at some point. Any closing statements on your behalf?
No, other than we've been treated to yet another amazing race here in the virtual Belcar. You can see on the top left, the cars are virtual, but the racing is very much real, and it has been a real treat tonight. If you've only just joined us, I highly recommend going back, watching the start of the race, watching the entire race. Sit down and relax and enjoy, because it was one for the memory album, that's for certain. Some amazing battles right up in front. Valkyrie competition just besting carnage right at the end in the final stint. The strategy worked brilliantly for them. They came out ahead at the final round of pit stops and then looked to break away. And then, of course, throughout the entire field, there were some amazing battles as well, weren't there? I mean, BLC2, there was some amazing tussles for the lead right in the early phases. And then, of course, the fight back through the field by JWS Motorsport in BLC3, and then the dominance of Flemish Sim Sports led by Verarco in BLC4. Every single class had its moment, had its story, and, well, we'll see what the next chapter is in this tale in a month's time when we go down to Le Mans for the next 3 hours of the virtual Belcar, and that's one that I certainly will be really looking forward to.
Yeah, so will I, and it's a track that with the slower cars than what we usually see at Le Mans usually makes for some fantastic racing as well. It's made for some interesting stuff before. I'm sure it will again when we visit in the best part of a month from now. Anyways, from the organizing team, from Edward May and myself, Hasse Reumer, it's been an absolute pleasure having you all along for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in with us for tonight's race. And of course, a grand thank you to all our sponsors and partners for being able to help us make this possible.